Я тут contingency check, передаем настройку. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome to Season 4 of the Talking Lead AK KONRER, proudly presented by Century Arms.
So
sure what they're what they're playing.
well, I'm not sure what you're doing with that silk hanky on your microphone there, but it's starting to make me nervous.
Getting all sexy.
That what you're recording other podcasts
Talking
with?
at AK KONRER after hours, baby.
It's
Oh yeah. If you start sniffing it, Brian, then you got an issue.
yeah, right.
What's that shit called when like
Sensory.
chicks like whisper in the microphones? What's that shit called?
Sensory porn or something like that. I don't
Yeah,
know.
you know what I'm talking about there, right?
Yeah, audio.
I learned about this. It's like apparently people like chicks like whisper in a microphone and people like listen
And
to it.
They scratch.
Oh, it's like ASM or something like that.
Yeah.
ASMR.
That's it.
Yep.
That's it. Yeah, that's what Marty does when he's not doing Talking Lead. He puts that little.
If he's smart.
Hey,
Hey, man, I got to pay the light bill somehow. Come on. Fans only. Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
Only fans. Yeah, after his
On the
prosthetic
fans,
hip, he had to switch to audio only. He was doing a strip routine on a pole before, but that them days are over.
I had to close my OnlyFans page. It turned out it was costing me money.
You see, I just said that everyone's going to get it for $5, but it's $20 to not see it.
There it is.
There you go. Nicely done. Nick, you've got the perfect voiceover for this stuff. You realize that, right?
Yeah, he does.
Yeah, I've been told that before.
He's got the 1970s porn voice.
There
He's
it
got
is.
a face for radio, as they say.
Yep, it's a face for radio and a voice for sign language.
There you go.
Guys, I think this is our teams tonight. I don't think anybody else is going to show up.
It's Team AK, right? So we're screwed.
So Brian and Andrew are Team AK. Nick and Ken are Team AR.
Man, chumps.
And of course, I don't see any jumping teams with Brian or Andrew. I think Ken will probably jump teams maybe a little bit from time to time. So Nick,
I have to. That's fine. I can stand strong on this hill.
I'll back you up, Nick. I'll back you up. It's all good. We won't hit any dirty shots. How about that? We'll keep it clean. All right, right above the belt. How about that?
Speak for yourself, Andrew. I go dirty on this episode. This is my one chance a year to let the dog out of the cage. Yeah.
Oh no. This is one of my favorite things we do every year now because it's
this is the second year. This is round 2. So for our listeners, welcome into the Talking Lead AK KONRER. This is the AK versus AR round 2. We did our first one last year. We had Nick Dooley, as you see there, hosted the AR-15 podcast as captain of Team AR. And this was all your idea too. You wanted to do this and get this together. So, and we're doing it. So, I think AK won last year. That's the consensus that I got from the listeners. That Team AK won last year. So you wanted a rematch. So we put together round 2 here, and due to scheduling, we've only got two team members per team. I think we had 3 or 4 last year, didn't we, per team?
I think we did, yeah.
Yeah, something like that. And then there may be people join us later. Who knows if people will jump on or not, but.
Where's Jay at? He's usually good for something like this.
He's got him some new digs, so he's busy impressing his new bosses. So
all right,
we'll be on in a later episode.
I'll text him, tell him to jump in.
Tell him to jump on. Send him that link.
Will.
Send him that link.
All right.
And then for captain of Team AK, we've got Brian Keeney returning.
Happy to be here as always.
Occam Defense Solutions up there in Idaho. I was having some computer issues. I guess you got your IBM fixed and everything's going okay now?
I fed the hamsters a few extra grains and things are good.
The mule deer.
There it is.
Get those mule deer to work out there. So you two were captains last year. Talk about who was on your team, Nick. You had Garth, which may jump on, right? He may jump on.
Garth might jump on. He might not. He had to go do some fire training for the fire department, and wasn't sure how long that was going to last tonight. But we had him, and allegedly we had Curtis from VSO. But,
he was a team jumper.
He was just
definitely been a team jumper.
Yeah, he was definitely a free agent. And that was the bulk of our team last year. We had the three of us, and then I can't remember his name from IWI, because we were talking
Gresham from IWI.
Yep.
Yeah. And Jeremy was going to join us, but he had a visitor from some people from Israel this week, and he's entertaining them, so that's more important. Being a sponsor of the show, I want him to keep them happy.
Exactly.
Good peeps.
So that was a good team. You had some good arguments. I threw a few things in here and there. But then Brian, Team AK, who did you have on Team AK?
I think I'm going to sound even less eloquent than our president here. I don't remember.
So
I don't remember being captain either. So
Jay,
I don't know. Maybe it was Jay.
Yeah.
Okay. And
Jay,
I know we had Andrew. Andrew held it down.
James Balzac, right? He was on.
Yep.
And Andrew.
Yep.
And
yeah, James is solid.
Was Jay on that episode? I don't think Jay was on that episode.
I think it was 3-on-3, if I remember right. We had Nick and his beautiful life partner, Garth, and Curtis, and then it was the three of us.
Yeah.
Sorry, Nick, I'm apparently not a beautiful life partner for you.
Well, that's fine. I mean, we'll make do.
For that same shirt he's got on right now.
You know, my
shirt.
Well, my wardrobe's kind of limited down here, so.
He's at an undisclosed location on the border.
Yeah.
It's always a good day for a Hawaiian shirt.
Absolutely.
It really is.
Absolutely. We were trying to find a Hawaiian pattern jumpsuit.
Well,
make some of those.
If in the chat there is a floral tracksuit.
Let me.
Marty's like,
Marty, I swear to God, if I ever come to pick you up or meet you somewhere wearing that, I'm just going to keep on driving.
So
I'm just waiting for him to show up in the Century booth with it.
Oh, feel free. I mean, you can jump to the booth all you want. I'll just make fun of you.
Do you see that? Victoria.
Well, now that has got some flavor. Okay, I'm not mad about that.
Oh, here we go.
Now that's cool. I'm into
look at
that.
the Tigers. I dig it.
I'm very down with that. Hawaiian print, not so much. That's cool.
An Asian floral, not Hawaiian. That's
right.
Hawaiian pattern. So I think somebody would make their millions if they would come out with that.
Oh, I'm sure somebody has it.
That's pimping, though.
That is pretty cool. That would definitely, it would look perfect with that.
What?
Freaking Draco.
Draco, yeah.
Dracos go well with everything, Andrew.
I know, but that right there, I feel like it just would make it just that much better.
It screams it. It really does.
Does it have to be gold plated though?
Nope.
Oh, please no.
But all the better.
No.
Tiger floral tracksuit. I love it. So for our listeners,
off this island, can I get voted off? Is that part of it?
Screen share.
I'll bring the boat by. Don't worry, Ben.
All right, so we've already got off the rails with this show, which is perfect. I love it. If you listeners hadn't had an opportunity, make sure you go back to our last episode. We had the owner and CEO of Henry Repeating Arms on, Anthony Imperato, and it was a great show. Anthony is a funny guy and a lot of information, and we probably talked everything but Henry rifles on that episode. We talked about cooking. We talked about racing. Henry's got they sponsor a NASCAR. It's called the Henry 180 series, and they've got some NASCARs that they race. They've got some dirt track cars. So he's heavily into racing. I think his son is into that. So it kind of explains why he's heavily into that. And then all the charitable organizations that they support. nonprofit organizations like children's hospitals, military law enforcement organizations. They've got a wide berth of organizations that they support. They don't just send it all to one. And their goal is to donate $1 million this year. This is their 25th anniversary. And it's not their goal. They're going to do it. He's committed to doing it. He's already, what was that word Amber Heard always used? He's pledged it. So, but you can guarantee they're going to get their money from Henry. So go back, check that episode out. And then you guys will appreciate this. The episode prior to that, we had Sheriff David Clark on the show. So that was a real treat having him on.
Heck yeah.
Another great guy. And we didn't talk a lot of politics with him, which I thought we would get into, but it was more about him and, his background and his history. And it was a really good, informative show. So you guys go check those last 2 episodes out. Kind of celebrating the 4th of July with those 2 episodes with 2 great Americans. So I've got 4 great Americans joining me today for our AK versus AR round 2, duking it out. Kalashnikov versus Stoner, baby. Boom, boom, boom.
What are you calling a stoner?
Oh, there's some people on here I could call that, but I'm not going to. To my right on my screen, as we're listening to this, we've got the captain of Team AR, Nick Dooley. Nick, welcome back.
Thanks for having us here. Glad to be here again. And like I said earlier, this is one of my favorite things to do every year.
Well, we're going to make it an annual thing, I do believe. I think it's going to be fun. We'll get some shirts and all kinds of things made up for this next time. You are with the AR-15 podcast on the Firearms Radio Network.
That is correct. I'm one of the hosts of the AR-15 podcast, and we talk about America's favorite rifle, the AR-15. All things that go in with it, the importance of training, and other stuff ancillary to things that might be important to people interested in the AR.
There you go. Very good. So you guys can go check him out over on the Firearms Radio Network, which we're on there also. So,
Yay!
And teammate Ken Allen with Ken Allen Trailing, who is no stranger to the Talking Lead podcast now. He's become a regular and a welcome regular. So Ken, welcome in.
Thank you, Marty, and thank you, everybody. I appreciate being invited on board. It's going to be a good time tonight.
Appreciate you being a good sport on being on Team AR. We know that you're a heavy AK user.
I am.
And you've got an event coming up later this year. That's not, I guess you allow ARs there too, but it's an AK-centric type event. Talk about it real quick.
Yeah, so it's titled Kalashtober. We have the distinct honor of actually being the oldest continuous original annual AK event in the country. We are on 7th year, and we might be the smaller boutique style event, but we have been the original out there. And as you just mentioned, Marty, we welcome all defensive carbines. So it's not just for AKs. We are AK centric. The whole premise is to be able to expose folks to AKs and Galils and others of those type. But we fully support the AR platforms, the SCARs, the Brens, the HKs, whatever you want to bring out that's a defensive type carbine, and we'll compare them and look at the differences and balances there within. One of the mainstays that I do in my programming is something that I call cross training, and that is taking someone that has plateaued. Typically, it's usually an AR platform because that's what most guys are running, or ladies, or people in general. And they've reached a certain plateau or point in which they are not exceeding their efficiencies any longer. So by cross training, meaning they actually get onto a different platform, and it's usually AK that we suggest, we change the complete method of operation. And so your brain is re-engaged. So if you stay on that platform for a couple months and do not deviate, it's going to be clunky for you, but that's the whole idea, is to get your brain re-engaged in what you're doing, and then switch back after a few months onto your AR platform. It will feel a little hokey for the first few weeks, but after that, you'll find that your times, splits, every other efficiency will start to actually get in excess of where you had left off. And it's all because you've re-engaged your brain and you're actually starting to actually learn again. So we fully support bringing on those ARs, and come on out, folks, join us. We'll be in Southern New Hampshire The 24th and 25th of September this year, we have the first of the triads of AK events, followed by Kalash Bash in Texas, and then Red October in Las Vegas.
Vegas, baby. Viva.
Yes, sir.
And then go to your website, kenallentraining.com.
Yeah, it's actually kenallentraining.us because we are US, baby.
Oh, yeah.
Put that on. You got to wear that for the show. I like that.
Well, you know, we've had some folks say, you know, we don't want to come out to no commie event, and we couldn't be anything further from that. So we are 110% all American, even though we're running some foreign weapon systems. That's all about knowing what's good and what isn't, and learning about all the differences in between.
Very cool. So go to his website, check that out. Were you going to say something, Nick?
I was going to say, isn't it like the very definition of capitalism to take something made by communists and then make money off of it?
And make it better. Better. Yes, Brian, make it better.
And communism is to take something that's made in America and steal it and make it over there.
Yeah, we got people like Brian Keeney out there just destroying what the commies did with that platform.
Yes,
the quality's so far past anything they did.
I do enjoy the cultural appropriation of the AK. It's like the only good thing that ever came out of communism. And the fact and not just mine, there's a bunch of American companies, the rate at which we've collectively innovated past Russia. Like, I don't want to put any of my fellow AK lovers in a state of butthurt, but the AK-12 is a piece of hot garbage. Like that's the best they could come up with. And then they didn't have the money to put optics on it. Like, you guys are worthless. So yeah, America.
Well, I mean, what was its competition though? The Lada?
No, this is true. Yeah.
So Team AK,
in most cases, V6 beats everything else, but in the case of the Lada, I think I'd rather have the AK. So I'm with you.
Welcome back to Brian Keeney, Team AK captain, joining us for. You've been like the last 2 or 3 episodes of the AK Corner. Have I got you back as my co-host, or?
Let's hope, man. This world is a difficult one, so we're still here, and we keep pivoting to combat whatever our favorite government throws our way. And we're still here. We're growing again. We took a pretty big hit at the bottom of COVID, but you know, we're on our way back up, and I'm happy to say that I don't think quality ever suffered during that, and that's our number one commitment. And so yeah, good times over here. Everybody's having to harden up, whether you're a bricklayer or you deliver pizzas. So we're just doing the same thing and figuring out how to make a living in this economy.
Very good. And joining you for the Team AK, we've got our good buddy Andrew Breneman with the presenting sponsor, Century Arms.
Oh yeah.
Show made possible by Century.
Nice.
You got his red coat shirt on.
Puff it up, Andrew. Puff it up.
Woo!
There it is.
I'm going the wrong way. There we go. Yeah.
You gotta go the opposite on this camera.
Hey man, chopper's gonna chop. That's all I gotta say.
I love it. So it's gonna be
really do like that.
Going to be a good show this episode. I'm looking forward to doing this. But I've got a reveal before we get started. I've got my 2 little banners here that I typically have in my background. Had a project I've been working on. I was going to wait until I had them on the show, but I want to go ahead and release it. So stand by. Andrew's seen it, I think. Dun, dun, dun. In honor of our AK versus AR episode.
Wow, look at that wall.
Oh yeah.
Oh man.
Get you a little tactical wall.
So
Nice,
for
Marty.
those listening and not watching at home, Marty has a matching pair of stripper poles, the left and right side of screen.
Yes, they're
My hip therapy.
And he just snatched his pants off in a way I've never seen. It was lightning fast.
Doctor's orders. I had to get
the last time I saw something like that, I was in Southeast Asia.
wearing that shirt, I hope.
Of course. What other shirt would you wear in Southeast Asia?
Did they let you keep the ping pong balls?
No, but I also found out an interesting version of a bird cage.
Oh, the truth, Ron, they only let you keep the ones you catch in your mouth.
Oh. That's going to leave a bitter taste, sir.
I'm sure.
This is going the wrong direction. So the reveal for you listeners that aren't watching the video, you heard me talk about this earlier with Lockdown Secure. Brian Steer was on a couple of episodes ago. We were doing a reloading episode with him and Pete Pye, and they were in the process of sending me these walls that they're making. So they've got some nice walls that you can display your firearms and gear, kit, accessories. They don't have everything released yet, but it's coming. We're going to have Brian on the show. We're going to talk about it. But I've got a AR side and I've got an AK side, as you can see there. So AK versus AR. Very cool. We're going to have Brian on. Like I said, we're going to talk about these. We'll probably get some kind of discount code or something set up. But I wanted to go ahead. I couldn't wait. I wanted to show my wall.
So we can't see the detail from here, but I'm pretty curious. It looks like a form of pegboard, but it looks awesome. It's like this silver metal, and then there's a grid of holes. Are there fasteners that go into that, like little rack items for different kind of stuff?
It is pegboard style, so any kind of pegboard accessory will work on there.
Nice.
They are making their own accessories. They don't have those ready yet. So I went to Lowe's, and I got some vinyl covered pegs. So I didn't want to scratch any of my guns. So I got, it's like for drills, drill.
Yeah, sure.
You can find those, and those work great for guns. And I've got one there on each end of the gun, the butt stock and the barrel, and it holds them nicely.
Sure do.
But
That does look nice.
Any pegboard, it's not the slats, it's the pegs. I found that they have more accessories for slat boards than they do pegboards for the vinyl covered stuff. So that was disappointing, but hopefully, and I've got some baskets right there too. If you see my baskets.
Oh yeah. Well, that it's cross compatible at all is super cool. Because you can kind of mix and match in the way you want.
Those are 4 panels, 4 square panels that I've got that I put together there. So it's modular. You can scale it to different sizes, and they've got, you can see behind my lever action guns there, I've got a little even smaller panel that they make.
Oh yeah.
I haven't put those up yet, so it's still a work in progress. I wanted to get something thrown up for this episode, so I just kind of haphazardly threw something up there. But yeah, very cool.
The lead quarters is going next level.
What's that?
I said the lead quarters is going next level.
Next level, that's right, baby. I'm trying to get organized. This place is a mess. You've been here, you've seen it.
So Marty, did I hear you say something to the tune of you didn't want to scratch your guns?
I didn't want to scratch my guns hanging them up. Yeah.
Brian, you want to jump on that real quick?
Yeah. Yeah, no, I'm living in a state of horror from a few different things you guys have discussed so far. But yeah, one of the things that I've thought of doing with our guns is a dirt baptism. And
Nice.
that every gun by default, I throw it in the dirt for you to keep people who have safe queens from buying my product, because I want my stuff used and scratched and not abused, but guns belong in the dirt in a big way, in my opinion.
Unless
For
they're
what we're
hanging
talking
on your
about.
wall in your house,
Yes, sir.
then you don't want dirt all over your shit. But here's the thing. It's weird because Andrew will tell you this, because he's been out shooting with me, is I don't give a shit about, I throw my guns around. They'll be in the dirt. They'll be over here. I'll slide them. But when I get home, for some reason, I want to baby them.
That's okay.
Weird
I understand not abusing your equipment.
That's all right.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, that's the reason why I wanted to go with the vinyl. Anyway, it's a weird reality.
I can also say I'm fairly positive that Marty can break any gun in the world almost by looking at it.
Yeah, I have this knack of being able to, if it's indestructible, I can destruct it. Yeah.
I'm just going to plead the fifth on that shit. I don't even want to get into it.
Because
I've been over there. I've fixed it before.
Hey, that rifle right there, remember that one?
I don't even want to think about that one.
That was the Palmetto State Armory one. That I think I had it 2 days. When you were with KUSA, I got one of their first. This was like years ago when they were making AKs.
It never happened.
I had one, and I broke something in it, and I don't know. I broke a Glock. I broke an AR that this company was getting ready to come out with. I can't remember the name of the company, but it had a side. Its bolt wasn't to specs or something with the travel on the side, and it broke out. It snapped off. Anyway, I break knives too. I'm very good at breaking knives too. But anyway, that's not our show. Our show is, let's get started. Let's talk about the AK versus the AR. Let's get into our competition. And there's prizes at stake here for you guys. So the winning team is going to get from our sponsors, Mission First Tactical, a custom dump tray. Get all my shit off of it. With whatever you want on it. You don't have to get the AK Corner logo.
That's really good. I was afraid you were going to say the winning team would get one of the opposing team's guns, and that's not something I want in my life. So this is something I actually want.
Well, the team gets one of the.
But Brian, I run your guns.
Yeah.
You're already dead to me. I don't even know your name.
Already dead.
And then we've got some listener participation things that we're going to read also on Instagram. I didn't really do like a question answer. I just did pick your team. You know, why do you like the AR? Why do you like the AK? And we'll go through there and we'll do our listener giveaways from that. Andrew?
Yeah.
And our listeners are also saying, you know, what the hell? This is supposed to be the BFT47 giveaway episode.
Yeah, what the hell, Marty?
I'm
ready to give it away.
What the hell, Marty? What the hell, listeners?
Oh, yeah. What the hell? Your listeners need to get with it and send some pictures in.
That's right. There wasn't enough participation. So I've extended it till next month. So you have more time to enter the BFT47 Century Arms Talking Lead BFT47 giveaway, where we're actually giving away an AK Century Arms. Yep. And to do that, we want you to post something on social media, on Instagram. I'll even open it up to Facebook now if this helps some of you lazy asses. But you take a picture of yourself, and it could be a video, it could be a picture, and you don't have to be in the picture, but a Century Arms firearm has to be in the picture somewhere. That's the whole point of this. And, you know, a lot of people's complaint that I've been getting from people, Andrew, is that I don't have a Century Arms rifle or pistol. Yeah. So I'm opening up to, if you've got a friend,
take a picture with a Century AK. Boom, you're there. You qualified.
Yeah, go into a gun store. I think, was it Academy carries them? Any of the
every big box store carries Canic and Century product.
Yeah. Your local gun dealer, you can go in there, and it doesn't have to be an AK. It could be a Canic pistol. It could be
5. It could be, whatever. Some of our shotguns. It could be a Mosin that Century imported.
Yeah, anything they've imported over the years.
Saying.
This is not a high bar.
It's pretty easy. I rarely run into gun people that have 10 or more guns that don't have at least like one Century.
Yeah.
and to
Walther or Draco, man, they're good guns.
Boom.
To sweeten the pot, Andrew last AK Corner announced that every participant will get something from Century Arms. A shirt, a hat, patch, maybe some max. Everybody's going to get something, but the winner is going to get the BFT47, and we're going to have a panel of judges, and they're going to judge your submission. I'm not a judge. I'm out of it. I'm keeping me out of it. I'm staying neutral. I've seen some that I like from the ones that have posted it, and thank you for the listeners who have posted. I think we've got maybe 10 or so so far. But, we need to get that up to like 30, 40, 50 entries. I want to see that. It's so easy to do, and they've been so generous, Century, with putting this up and then also offering everybody something. Everybody's going to get something. All participants will get something. So it's going to be awesome. So I want to see those pics, those videos. And the hashtag TLBFT47, guess what? Instagram has banned it.
How did they ban it already?
I have no idea. Pull it up. Who's got a phone? You can pull it up right now. Ken pulled it up earlier today.
Yeah,
and
it was dead.
He could not see the post.
I don't know how to do that. So
just search the hashtag and it'll come up with nothing.
BFT47, right?
Yeah. TLBFT47.
See all results. Yeah.
Whoa.
They
have banned.
They banned it.
You got shadow banned, Marty.
No, I am being heavily shadow banned right now. It's ridiculous. And I think maybe that might be an issue also why maybe some of you have posted it. If you've made a post and I haven't reshared it on my Instagram, then that means I haven't seen it.
Right.
So you have to make sure that you tag Talking Lead, you tag Century Arms, you tag all of our sponsors. That way I can see it, because the people who have tagged me, it's at Talking Lead, I have seen those. So you got to make sure that you're doing it that way also. So I don't know any other way to get around this shadow banning, but you guys, you listeners, have to help us out. I know that everyone on this podcast right now is experiencing that. Yep. So you have to go, you have to like our post, you have to reshare our post. That's the only way to really, for us to grow and expand and reach out to you. They've also, I found this out, Ken and I were talking about this earlier today. They have auto shut off people who have in the past requested to see posts from you. Yep. I've had several people email me this too and text me that, hey, I went to check this and they had turned it off.
Yep.
They didn't do it themselves. Instagram or Meta, whoever it is, has gone in and they've turned it off, that they don't want them to see my post.
Yeah, they've done that, and they've also done unfollowing. So I've seen on my own page, which is a business page, there's been unfollows or other businesses that I would follow that are no longer followed that I did not unfollow. So it's like, what's going on here? Yeah.
They got that AI working overtime.
They do. Yeah, they do.
So we have to be very, very diligent and vigilant. Go check your accounts, check those settings, check that box to get posts from Occam, from Century, from Talking Lead, from the AR-15 podcast, from Ken Allen Training, Seal One, all of our sponsors. If you've noticed that maybe our posts have been slacking off, that's probably why.
Yeah.
Because you've been auto shut off from us. So go and fix that. Fix yourself, as Paul Markle says. All right, so that's enough of the preaching. I want to see more entries. I've given you more time. Let's get her done. And anybody can enter. I mean, Brian, you can enter. You're not an employee of Century Arms. You're not giving away anything in this contest. Nick, you can enter. Ken, you can enter.
Oh, it's on then.
You're all eligible. Everybody's eligible as long as you don't work for Talking Lead or Century Arms.
And I will say no wangs, please. No wangs. I've said this before, but I'm going to say it again. No wangs.
No wangs. Boobs are acceptable, no wangs. And be safe also. Don't do something irresponsible with your post either. Be very responsible with your post, but have fun with them. And I'll leave it at that. So let's get into this. The AK. Brian, give us a little touch of the history of the AK-47. What makes it so special?
I think that the thing that it makes it most special is that it has a cartridge which was specifically designed for combat. The AR unfortunately uses a prairie dog round, and that was not designed for combat. It was literally designed for prairie dogs, and it's amazing for prairie dogs. But I digress. So that's amazing thing. Number one is a really nice 30 cal round with a tapered case that both chambers and extracts it very nicely. It also had a one of the big driving factors was bill of materials cost when they were developing the AK. And it is, you know, much as I love it, it is a peasant's rifle. It costs about $5 to make one if you have slave labor. And they really wrung a lot of the cost of that out. And let's see, so they were looking for something to compete against the Sturmgewehr and some other stuff, and also be shot by conscript, so it had to be really easy to use. It also had to survive in -40 or -50 degree conditions. And so it was optimized for that. The controls, if you know, under the effects of adrenaline, there's this line that fingers turn to flippers. The controls on the AK are really good for that. When you only have you've got the bang switch, the charging handle, and the safety, and that's it. It's a highly ergonomic rifle, despite what a lot of people think about it. What's his name? Shoot. Jeff Kirkham has some really great things to say about that. It fits a wide range of body types. It is.
I forgot about Jeff Kirkham. We should have got him.
We should have. But the weight is really good, despite not having any aircraft aluminum in it. It's 7 pounds in most configurations, which is about the same as an M16. I think those are kind of the high notes. That yes, it came along, you know, a team led by Mikhail Kalashnikov designed the gun. It went through several iterations. I have actually, I don't know if I can show them on screen, but I've got the commie prints from back in the day, and it's a very well designed gun. Like the drafting on it is just gorgeous, and it's
a work of art.
Yeah, and they do a kind of there's a kind of tolerancing that guarantees, in modern engineering, it's called global dimensioning and tolerancing, or GD&T. It guarantees through a sort of discipline that when you smush parts together, they'll all fit and the thing will work. Way before anybody in the Western world had come up with that, the commies wrung almost all of the possible, they're called tolerance collisions, out of that design without the benefit of a computer of any sort, or any sort of real technology as we think of it today. So it's
back in 1947.
Yeah, and the AKM was something like 54 or 56. That's kind of the one that we all know and love as the AK today. Yeah, the 103 improved on some stuff. Totally. The 74 improved on some stuff. Totally. But in terms of like the architecture and the operating system, 47 to 54 is where you could really say the thing got ironed out and became a really good design.
Very good. Andrew, anything to add to that?
No, I mean, I think that's definitely the high points of the AK. I would say also the capacity. The fact that the original and standard AK capacity, or the one we know as being 30 rounds, as opposed to some other places, some other guns which didn't originally have 30 rounds.
Indeed.
Didn't originally have 30 rounds.
Oh, another one. The AK was designed for field serviceability, including the magazines, which other less prepared governments thought of magazines as being disposable, and so they engineered them to be disposable, which in my mind is really dumb. So anyway, having a rugged mag that'll stay around for a long while, that can actually be dropped onto concrete and not just dissolve into a myriad of little aluminum chips, that's a big deal.
Okay, you're jumping ahead, but that's good. All right. That's your time on that, the history. So Nick, Ken,
I've got all stuff for this, and I promise I won't just do retorts to what we talked about. So, yeah. Strangely enough, the AR came about. Actually, it was first fielded, for the Armalite rifles in 1956 as part of the trials, and there were a handful of other cartridges that were in the running at the time, but the 5.56 was ultimately what was selected for that. It was actually did a lot of the same things that the AK line did. It just did them first and better, because when when they switched from their 30 caliber cartridge down to, the 22 caliber or 20 in the case of the AK, we just stuck with it for 50 years. Instead of doing this back and forth, we can't decide if we want to run a 5.45 or a 7.62. And, we just stuck with something and figured it out and perfected it. And when it was designed, the initial design of it was actually very good, and the original white papers for it and how to use it and what ammunition to use were far different than what a certain government put out and said they were going to do, because the initial issues that came out that were spoken about after its initial fielding in Vietnam came out from poor powder, and they went, oh, we have a bunch of this powder left over from World War II. We're just going to keep using it, not the stuff you recommended. And then they also said that it was a self-cleaning rifle because people didn't read the manual. But when you get into what it is, it used a lot of innovative products. It was polymer and aluminum, which going forward now is what is the most common and rigid things we have. And the handy thing about them was, they were originally sent out with 20-round magazines that were supposed to be thrown away. They were a plastic, non-reusable mag. And they quickly decided that was a bad idea. And now I think they've perfected the magazine, because I can say that I can take any AR and put any AR mag in it, and it'll run. But if I grab like a Tabuk and then a Wasser 10, all of the mags will not work interchangeably between them.
I will say with this AR, this is that it likes certain mags, like anything other than their magazines is tough to get in and out. This is like a hex mag. And of course, you get that same issue with some AKs too. Not like
isn't the outfit that hired Longhorn?
There you go. You had to bring that up, didn't you?
Well, yeah, I did, because you brought a trophy on camera,
well,
so I get to bring
for that exact reason. Why I wanted to say that, because I knew somebody was going to go about the mags. Like, this one doesn't like certain mags, and it's ridiculous. It's a good rifle.
It's definitely not as prolific as AK mags, but yes, there are plenty of ARs that don't like other AR mags.
Yeah.
I can say thermal. I can say hex mag. I can say
it's kind of a nullifying argument on both sides. So
there's definitely an argument there on both sides.
Yeah. What I've not heard anybody say are the names of the inventors as you were getting to the history. I want to hear some of these names.
Brian Mikhail Kalashnikov.
So
crap talk on that too, man.
Everyone credits Eugene Stoner with developing the AR.
It wasn't just him.
And he did develop the operating system for the AR-10 and 308, but it was actually a man named Sullivan who shrunk it down and made the AR-15. And later in life, Mr. Sullivan went on to work for Ruger and created the Mini 14 because he had already figured out how to shrink that down.
Which is a piston gun, by the way.
Mighty fine gun. I have several of them.
Let's talk about that. Let's talk about, since you brought that up, Ken, the operating systems, the differentiating operating systems of the AR versus the AK.
Right.
Another point I wanted to make, and again, I'm not Team AR or AK.
No.
But it sounded to me like
a show called the AK KORNER. You're obviously.
Shut up, Andrew.
Andrew, he called me up and said, "You got to be on Team AR."
It's like, just ridiculous.
So hearing Dooley's history, it sounds to me like, you've got to be educated and able to read to be able to use an AR.
That's true. That's true.
With an AK,
important.
You just put it in the hands of any just bumbling idiot, and they'll be able to just by natural instinct use it, know how to use it.
Precisely.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's worked for child soldiers and starving conscripts across the globe. But actual formal militaries use the AR.
And what would be the benefit of that? if your firearm landed in the hands of the enemy, then they wouldn't be able to use it, right?
Oh, I don't know. I think it's pretty easy to figure out how to run an AR too. But I'm more following the Clint Smith school of weaponcraft, where you should be able to run any rifle.
Right on.
Yes, I agree with that.
Yes, sir.
All right, so back to the operating system. Talk
All right.
about the AR.
I have to break in here. There's a meme with Bart Simpson where everybody says, say the word, say the word. And lately it's been, he was known to the FBI prior to the shooting. I'm going to do the same thing to you right now, Ken. Say the words. You know what I mean.
Say the words.
What is the AR? Where does it shit?
It shits directly into the place you don't want it to, right?
Where it eats.
It's in its own mouth. Just say it. It shits in its own mouth.
It does. It does. All right, but let's talk about that for a second, right? So what Brian's referring to is the direct impingement system, the DI system. The very basis of how that works, we've got a projectile that's running down a barrel. Behind it is running a tremendous amount of pressure and carbonization. And that pressure and carbonization will find its way to a hole in the barrel. It'll find its way up to a port, and it'll work its way back through a very narrow tube. That very narrow tube is going to fart onto the bolt carrier, and that bolt carrier is going to push back, and it's going to reset the trigger system, and this here, all that good stuff, and it's going to bounce off of a buffer, which has a spring behind it, and basic kinetic energy is going to drive that back forward again. It's going to strip off the next round and rechamber it. It's going to be ready to fire again. But that process of taking the gas, coming back up through that tube and pushing it against that bolt carriage is leaving carbonization into the bolt carriage, the upper receiver, the lower receiver. So that in itself is the issue that people talk about. Now, the counter to that is to keep it lubricated, but we'll talk about that later. The opposite to that, when we talk about a piston system, which is what a AK is, a piston is actually when you have the bolt carriage in attachment to the piston. So they are one unit traveling together. So people often will not necessarily recognize the difference, especially when they're looking at AR type series that are actually piston push rods. So a piston push rod system is different than a piston. The primary weapon systems rifles are a true piston in the sense that the bolt carriage and the piston are attached and travel as one unit when gas is pushing upon it. A piston push rod system has the similar system where you have the gas port coming up, but you have a very short piston that's working off of a spring and a rod behind it. So that spring gets an impact off the piston, drives back that rod. The rod impacts the bolt carriage then travels back, impacts the buffer, impacts the spring drives it back forward, reloads, and back in the chamber. So it's a multi-tiered system that has kind of a thud feeling, and those that shoot a direct impingement system will feel a very soft feeling to the rifle firing, whereas when they shoot a piston push rod system, they will literally feel a thud as that goes through until they get used to it. The piston rifle itself is also very smooth. However, the harmonics in the system, especially those that are accustomed to shooting a real round, which is 7.62 .39. See, I'm jumping ship already on you, Marty. You know, if you're shooting a 30 caliber round, you know that you've shot a round. Yeah, it's got a little bit more felt recoil. However, if you are a real shooter, that's inconsequential. The 5.56, 5.45, 39, whichever way you want to go in that, is a very soft shooting cartridge. It does not have much felt recoil. So those of you that need to actually reduce the recoil of 5.6 or 5.45, wow, come on, get some training, learn to shoot. You really don't need that. And that's the basis of it. But yeah, big differences between the two. One is attached and it travels attached. The other is gas that's literally pushing it back. Nice thing about the DI system, has very few moving parts, right? It's stationary, and it's very difficult to break those parts. However, it does require more maintenance than you'd require on either of those other two systems.
Very good. Nick, before we jump over to Team AK, do you have anything to add?
No, I was just going to say when Ken was talking about the piston systems, more commonly they are referred to as a long stroke and a short stroke piston.
Copy that. Mm-hmm.
And that's it's The piston is the same thing. That's been around for forever, since the days of the M1 Garand, because that had an op rod with a short stroke piston that would push everything back, much the same as an M14 or a Mini 14.
Yep.
Now, we're not going to talk about the black hole in U.S. history that is the M14 right now, but what we will do is talk about good rifles and go back to the AR. And when you
go.
When you get into that, the system of running the gas back to the bolt and pushing that, the easiest way to do it is, well, there are fewer moving parts. What it's actually doing is using the bolt carrier as the piston for the rifle. That, so it is still technically a piston gun in the eyes of some people, because the gas moves through and then it hits that as the piston, where the spring pressure moves the bolt forward and strips everything off, which is why it gets the reputation of shitting where it eats. But with that, there are a handful of things that were originally put into the design as part of a contract that did not have to be there. And one of them would be the jam enhancement device, also known as the forward assist. And well, I have 20 years of experience running this rifle. I can count the number of times it's actually worked on one hand. And other than that, it just messes things up more. But that's where the good idea fairy came up and said that needed to be there. Much like a grip safe on a 1911, the same good idea fairy said that had to be there.
And it's still there today.
Yeah. Let me just add a little piece to that, Nick, because
It's like, why?
yeah. So what he's saying isn't wrong, right? I'm with you, Nick. However, working in an environment in which I tend to teach most, I find that there are a lot of circumstances where that forward assist comes in handy. And one is actually in the loading function. So because we don't have an exterior charging handle that is actually attached to the bolt, to press check the rifle, we must, or pistol, however you look at it, you have to pull back on charging handle. And when doing so, there's no good way to make sure that your bolt is back in battery other than letting it slam. So that could result in a couple things that we might not want to happen. So using that forward assist to then make sure that you're back fully in battery is, probably one of the better benefits of having it there.
It's useful.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. So,
Yep.
so at least there is a reason.
Teammates arguing here. I like this.
No,
Although
just,
Saying
just
it's
supporting
useful,
it.
others think it's useful.
There are handfuls.
But what was the original intent, and what was the issue that they thought they were solving with the forward assist?
It was because of the original design actually had a charging handle inside of the carry handle that was attached to the gas key that would go forward, but they were worried that would get caught on things. So when they went to the T-style charging handle, they said, oh, if it doesn't seat all the way, you can just jam it in with these serrations and work the bolt in if it gets dirty.
Just push. Don't bang, just push.
Yeah. It doesn't work.
Hey, Andrew.
Okay.
Yes,
Let's
sir.
go to the
I
AK
think
now.
that the AK has a charging handle too, a forward assist too.
Yeah,
Doesn't
it does hold your hand.
Oh, and where do you hit?
Most soldiers have at least one
Whoa! And does it work?
every time.
Holy shit!
So Ken did a really excellent job in describing the AK operating system and the AR. Do you guys at Team AK have anything that you want to embellish on or add to the operating system?
In the
And I mean,
in the words of the great Sonny Pazikis, if no work, hit with shovel.
Yeah. I will add one thing. I will add one thing. As I've been doing this for a long time, I've been shooting most of my life. I've shot ARs for a very long time. I will say that when they came up with the M4 barrel cuts, or the design change as it progressed, A lot of those carbon buildup issues, a lot of those not going fully into battery, I feel like a lot of those issues taken care of. But growing up shooting like really old Bushmasters and really old Colts, like I have some LE Colts from like the early 80s. Yeah, it's definitely, they have definitely improved upon the platform, but it's one of those things like, at some point they started making uppers without forward assists and people started buying them. I'm one of the people that bought a lot of those.
I have a couple. I have a bunch of each actually. And I even own an old Olympic.
I was just talking to a dude about those piles of shit.
Yeah. I don't know that I'll ever get rid of it because it was such an oddity.
That's
yeah,
for sure.
So back when 3-gun very, very first came out, it wasn't even called 3-gun. But one of the early places that did it was a place called Woody's in New Hill, North Carolina, which is right near where I grew up. And everybody shot it with like a Beretta or a 5906, a Remington 870 pump, and either a Colt or a Bushmaster AR with a fixed carry handle. I don't even think they really sold guns with the takeoff carry handle at that point.
Not yet.
But every once in a while, some dingbat would show up with an Olympic Arms. And I was probably like 14 at the time, and I was clowning those dudes.
So odd about the Olympic Arms.
They just weren't very well made, we'll say.
Yep. They they had a problem with doing the spacing, but they're the industry standard of what size a lower would be between the takedown pins, between the pivot pin and the rear takedown pin, are not quite the same. So if you wanted to get some other uppers to fit on them, you might have to take a Dremel and make them fit, which is ill-advised. They had some other interesting trigger component issues from time to time. They made their own size of rifle as well, because they had like a carbine length fixed stock that looked like an A2 stock on a 16-inch barrel. With that's one that I have because I took it on trade from someone and went, yeah, you know what? I'll keep this around because, well, it's funny to me.
Oh no, I'm definitely, if I saw one, I would buy it just to have it. I totally would too. I would just be like, hey, you guys want to see the biggest piece of shit AR? Let me show you.
And you know what? That's still better than a Tabuk.
You keep bringing up the Tabuk.
Well, you know what? When you're fighting AK versus AR, that's really all you can do. Just keep bringing up the Tabuk.
He keeps going to the Tabuk.
Keep bringing up the Tabuk, and you'll be all right.
Before we get off the operating systems, Brian, do you have anything to add?
Well, my honest love for the AK started with the parts count. The reason I called our company Occam Defense is there's this idea of Occam's razor that all things being equal, the simplest answer is the best one. When I'm describing the difference between an AR and an AK to neophytes, newbies, I'll point them to the dust cover on an AR. It has like 30 components. It doesn't really, but it's like, there's got to be like 8 or 9 components just in the dust cover of an AR-15. The AK has a dust cover too, and it's called the safety. It's 0 parts. And I can go and do that with like 8 other things, major features on the AK. The bolt carrier doubles as a spoon and a stirring instrument and a hammer and all kinds of other shit. It also doubles as the wrench to take down the rear sight block cam lever. That's I'm being somewhat silly there, but the bolt, if you look at the difference between an AR-15 bolt and an AK bolt, it's stupid. When I'm showing AR people how to strip a bolt, invariably they're like, whoa, you mean it's only like 5 things? And they just like one thing, you can't do it wrong. You just have to go in the different order if you do it wrong. It's like, yeah. And it's like, you mean the gun won't blow up if I forget the cotter pin or whatever nonsense there is? And I'm like, nah, it just won't work. And they're like, this is amazing. And so you can just keep doing that with the AK, that they've just wrung all the extra shit out of it. There's no charging handle because it's just part of the bolt carrier. There's no forward assist because it's part of the bolt carrier. The hammer spring and the trigger spring are the same spring. Like, it's just genius how simple they got the thing down to.
So like that. That was good. Somebody's check. Who's echoing?
Yeah,
You, Mark.
It's not me.
I think it's your silk handkerchief that you keep playing with.
It is not. Hold on.
Well, now it's gone.
Is he gone now? Did somebody mute themselves? Brian muted himself, so it must have been Brian.
Sorry about that. Is that me? Echoey?
No,
you-
I think so. Is it Andrew?
Brian got into the next one, which was parts. So the parts, the parts counts fewer on the AK, I think is what Brian is saying, and that they also have multiple uses with the parts.
So what is the total part count on a, let's say, just an M4? Does anybody know that?
I bet I will in just a second.
Is that
Yeah.
stripping you're talking about parts? Or are you talking about the overall construction?
The overall parts count. I don't want to say, because you could pick a different AR and it could be a different number.
Right.
Let's just say like a standard, military M4.
Yeah, there's a bunch.
And you can include mag or don't include mag, doesn't matter, because I think the mags pretty much have the same number of parts. So
Yeah, mags really have 4 parts in a mag.
We'll do mags later. So we'll just start at the bottom. You got the buttstock, you got the tube, and we'll do the outside. We'll do outside, inside, and then inside that you've got the spring and the
detent, the plate.
but you got the spring and you got the
The buffer. You talking about the buffer?
Yeah.
yeah, the buffer.
Buffer and buffer.
Then you
spring,
got the spring, the detent,
plate,
Plate, castle nut. Yeah.
castle nut.
a castle nut. Yeah. Plate.
And you got your grip. So you got your detent and spring. You've
You
got
got
your
here. You got-
washer, your bolt, your pistol grip itself. I don't know. Did you find an answer?
I have an exploded view of it, and I just have to do math quick. While I
Does it
Well,
give you a final number at the bottom, Nick? of
Like
parts?
20
no,
parts.
it doesn't give me so I have to add the totals up.
Okay.
So I will, because that is the
As he's
issue.
doing that, do you know the count on an AK? Team AK, yeah.
Ask Brian. He builds them every day.
Yeah, I can go through it, and I can look at our part number list, but that's going to take me a minute to count them up. It depends what level of stripping you want to go to. Like in the case of the front trunnion, that's actually 3 parts.
Yeah.
It's the front trunnion, the bullet guide, and the bullet guide rivet. And if you want to count that as 3, I would count it as 3 personally.
Yeah, separate. Yeah, you have to count it as 3. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Probably, in all fairness, the buttstock on the AR, depending on which buttstock you're working with, has multiple parts also.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the collapsible
sure.
buttstock's going to have way more.
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
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 Oh, but if you get one of the your lovely AK-12s, will have as many parts in the buttstock.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. So while Nick is looking for a part count and doing some quick math, just to kind of keep the topic moving, the major benefit when you're looking at all those parts on the AR and what they do and how they integrate is actually the integration of those parts. That most of them, not all of them, but most of them are designed to easily integrate without any further engineering or changes by an armorer. They're more or less, and this is not entirely true of the entire system, but more or less plug and play. So the whole concept of adult Lego set comes into play. Now that gets a lot of folks into trouble because they start changing out components that they really don't belong doing. We are not engineers, we're not gun engineers. So when we start changing spring weights, bolt carriage weights, and all kinds of other stuff, we're really not supposed to be doing that because the design of this weapon system is designed all along the kinetic energy that's pushed off of the amount of pressure that's in that system with the base springs that are in it. So we have to be careful how we alter these things. We frequently see these Gucci Glocks and Gucci ARs failing And the reason for those failures is because people have messed with them and interchanged on these parts they really shouldn't have been interchanged with. They're cool. They certainly have their place, particularly in the competitive realm, but they have zero place in the defensive realm. If you want that gun to run and run well, you need it to run, leave it as it was designed. There's somebody much smarter than you were that put that thing together.
That is 100% correct, Ken. I agree with you wholeheartedly on that.
Yeah,
I mean, that's just be said for everything, though. I mean, the people do the same stuff to AKs, so.
Yep, they do.
Yep,
Yeah.
I do have the parts count for a standard M4. So like a issue M4 from the military has 107 total parts.
Wow.
But that goes down to including the tensioning screws for that RAS handguard.
Yep.
That would put everything in, like where you're putting all the stuff into that, and the springs for the delta ring and stuff like that. It is 107 total individual parts.
That's a lot.
What'd you come up with, Brian, for the standard AKM or 74?
Well, just in the receiver, I've got 17, 18, 23, 26 in the receiver alone.
Yeah.
And then I started moving on to the barrel and realized the rear sight base has like 6 or 7. There's a bit of a difference to be made, or how to put it. The part count in some ways on the AK is quite high, but rivets are not things that fail in general. And so like cross pins and stuff, like that's where you kind of get into bomb cost. And like, yeah, milled receivers have lower parts counts, but I would rather have a stamped gun in general. And so parts count to parts count, it sort of is like in my mind, it's the movable parts, things that can break and fall off and stuff.
Mhm.
So that may sound like me hedging and everything, but I really do think there's a difference between shit that moves and shit that gets driven into a hole once to lock something in.
AKs only have 8 moving parts.
Right, that's a good way of putting it. But on the manual labor, like let me fight for the other team for a second here.
Yeah.
The reason that ARs are so much cheaper than AKs now is because they're much more amenable to modern manufacturing methods. In the days when every milling machine was a manual milling machine and there was an equal footing on stuff, the AK was easier to make. I guarantee it. Today, though, it's a lot of man minutes to get an AK from start to finish that's good. Now, I know people that can slam one together in under half an hour. But I don't brag about how fast I can build one. I brag about how good mine are. And those are two different things. So in terms of outfitting a modern military, the AR has a lot to recommend it if you're a baller on a budget, the AR is for you. But if you live in a first world country, then I think the AK is a much better weapon.
I'll add to that just from the fact that I work for a company that does mass produce AKs. What we do is a very different thing than what Brian does. Brian makes, I would say, almost a boutique AK.
Sure.
Just very highly accurate, not a run-of-the-mill mil-spec type of rifle. Well, what Century Arms does, we make mil-spec rifles. And we can say that because we do personally have the Romanian mil-spec. We actually talked about that with CJ. Remember that time, Marty?
Yeah.
The only nice thing CJ, I think, ever said about Century Arms was that we were one of only 3 companies that can say they make a mil-spec AK.
And
not necessarily something to brag about at the end of the day, but it's a true statement.
I was just gonna say that I've been around some, and not Century exactly, but mil-spec AKs, and
But what I was going to add to that, being just mass producing, being different than what it is much more labor intensive, and it does require a certain amount of skilled labor to actually assemble and build an AK properly. Yep. But as the first company in the United States to build an AK 100% in the US, which is Century Arms, we've learned a ton, and we have applied American engineering and American manufacturing processes to the AK now, and that's why we're able to turn out such a high quality product over what the old Comblock stuff was, just because we are better at it than they are. But to Brian's point, the cost, it's way cheaper to manufacture an AR. I can get 20 guys from a freaking homeless shelter, bring them into a back room, and they're making ARs in 2 hours.
Yep.
You know, AKs are not like that. They, you know, they have to be riveted. There's a finesse to it. I mean, we all make a lot of our own equipment. We just made it ourselves.
I had the great fortune to go over to Poland to Pioneer Arms to their manufacturing and actually watch start to finish process of them making an AK, the forging and everything. It was remarkable. I've got a video on our YouTube channel.
And I should hasten to say that when I was talking about 45 minutes, Century would never turn a dime profit if it took them 45 man-minutes to build a gun. That I'm not, when I was speaking somewhat derisively about folks that slam stuff together, I mean on the garage builder scale.
Oh, no, 100%.
It would be on the order of, man, it'd be like, I don't want Andrew to tell me, but I'd be shocked if there's because of the high degree of automation and mechanization, I bet it's like 10 process minutes to make a Century gun that has tens of millions of dollars of R&D and a very nice gear that makes stuff reliably via automation.
It is, but you'd be surprised at how much actual manpower is.
Oh, really? Cool. Cool.
Which, you know, we're sitting here on Team AK and we're giving Team AR
this is true.
all this ammo, but I'm not going to bullshit and lie. ARs are much easier to build.
Well, that's okay. I mean, somebody has
technology. They're way easier to build.
Someone has to go to Home Depot and then cut the handle off the shovel, you know, before you put it in the press.
I had a listener send me. That's one of the entries in the competition. Is he
the shovel handle? That thing is awesome.
Yeah, did you see that? Yeah.
Wait, he literally cut the back end off of a tile shovel.
Yep.
And
oh no, I'm super aware. The first guy to do that in the U.S. goes by the handle Ma Boris, Maboris, and the guy is a legend. Mm-hmm. And if he was actually the guy that called in or sent in an entry, Marty, that is a guy we need on the show. He is one of my heroes. He's actually a very highly skilled fabricator, and he was selling back in the day, OG. He had this website that sold flowers, and you could buy the marigold or the snapdragon or all this other shit. And what you would do is you would buy this flower, and what showed up in the mail was a bunch of sheet metal. And you would buy a Tokyo Marui airsoft Glock and throw everything away and route out some stuff. And then he had YouTube videos where you would TIG weld together all these little sheet metal parts to make what today is like a Polymer 80. And this guy, he also did, just to piss off the libs, he lives in Massachusetts. That's the MA part. He writes this hilarious article that you can still find about going to an antique shop with bourgeois wife and finding shovel and saying this should be AK. And then he does the whole thing. He makes the receiver out of the shovel, which is why AKs are better.
Yeah. Make them out of a shovel.
Here it is right here.
Yeah.
There it is.
Turn your plowshares into an AK.
It says Arms of Acadia. He's the one. I don't know if he's whatever name you said or not, but he's also, if you notice there, he's got a screwdriver for his charging.
Oh no, this is a gent. I know Arms of Cascadia. He's a good dude. He's a gunsmith in the Pacific Northwest. I think he's somewhere. He might be near Eugene. And no, that's oh man, is that a glorious work of art he made?
Isn't that great?
Duct tape.
Of course.
Tape. He's got duct tape and he's got a screwdriver for the charging handle.
Is that a US Palm mag?
Oh, of course.
US Palm. Yeah.
Well, and it looks like is that a FAL? Did he make the handguard?
It's a set me handguard that he turned into an AK handguard.
Yeah, I was the hand. That's definitely.
What's this handle though?
Oh yeah, he just put the plastic handle over the charging.
Yeah.
That's great.
But look at the duct tape right there.
Extended
so much
charging handle.
You know, I guess my AK, because I do own one, has a large amount of duct tape on it as well.
It's good stuff, man.
Because I had to reinforce the well, when using the pistol brace as it was originally designed to, the polymer of the SB 1913 brace did not stand up well, so it had to be reinforced.
You should call this guy Brian Keeney. He makes a really badass brace.
Oh, well, that would take away from the aesthetic of the AK I have. I call it the ghetto blaster.
Yeah, nice. I like that.
Everything about it reads for that. But so no, I have both. I've shot both. I've trained with both, and the AR is just better.
Well, I mean, let's just be honest. I think we all are AR and AK guys to some extent. I mean, we like all firearms, shotguns, pistols. You know, we like everything. So this is just, this is a fun show. You guys are doing great. You're good sports. I appreciate it.
I will say this, Marty. I was 12 when I got my first AK. I was well into my 20s when I got my first AR.
Yeah, but you're backwards ass. So
yeah, I was about.
Go ahead, Nick.
I was gonna say I was the opposite. I got I got handed a pre-band Colt flat top when I was 11.
Yeah, you're a lot younger than me, I feel like.
No, that was in 94.
Yeah, I graduated high school in 95.
Yeah.
I graduated college in 94.
Yeah. I got my first AK when I was 12 because AKs were $175 and I could afford one.
Exactly.
Well, see,
why you had an AK before you had an AR.
That's why.
Back
AR
then,
at that time in the early 90s, an AR was $700.
Over $1,000.
Yeah, 1,000 in some
Colt
cases.
was almost $1,000 in the late 90s.
Yep.
Yeah.
You could pick up an Orenco at that time for between $300 and $600, depending on which model, underfolder or standard stock. Yeah.
See, our Honda shop sold SKSs under the floorboards of the shop, so that's just what we had for 7.62 by 39.
Yeah.
Dude,
Me too.
$75 for my first SKS.
Yep.
That was I should never have sold it. It was an Armory quality red stocked Soviet gun, so it's probably worth oodles. But
hindsight, man.
It went early.
If I had
could buy an AK.
All I would do is go back and buy guns.
Yep, it's true. It's true. But it was something.
I'll quote most of our mutual friend James Yeager here in saying that these are the good old days.
That's right.
True.
He has yet to be wrong about that. Yeah.
No, Yeager's right.
Every day.
So on that note, Brian, you mentioned earlier a couple minutes ago related to milled receiver versus stamped receiver, and your indication was a stamped receiver was better or had some superior qualities. I know the answer to this, but share it because that's worth knowing.
Yeah, sure. So I think Occam has put the last nail in the coffin on stamped receivers not being accurate. We've shipped well over 500 guns now, which is not a spit in the ocean next to a bunch of manufacturers out there, including Century. However, it starts to be statistical, and we've never shot one or never made a gun that shot over a 1-inch group at 50 yards with good ammo. So that's far in excess of what you need out of an AK. I think that a 4MO AK is perfectly adequate for what AKs are designed to do. I only tout that accuracy as a measure of all-up quality, that we're doing stuff boringly the same every time.
But wouldn't you say that you've increased the expectations out of an AK? And I think most people have their expectations are, more accuracy. And they're getting more accurate because of companies like you, where you're going in and you're starting to make your own parts, piece by piece, because you're like, this one just didn't get enough. I'm going to make my own. And
yeah, and I'll say that
to meet the expectations of Americans.
Well, but that's the funny misunderstanding, is that there's a ton of commie tolerances that have 1/1000th of an inch tolerance windows. It's actually a very tightly dimensioned gun. Now, you are correct that it's especially the case in the U.S., where when we tell machine shops it's for an AK, they automatically think it can be hot garbage. And so that expectation that it doesn't have to be good because it's an AK has been a real bear for us to overcome. And that was just never true. This whole line about AKs being built in caves is not a real thing, any more than you can build a good 1911 from a truck frame in a cave. It's just not a thing.
Brian, hey, hang on. On that one, on the AR side of that same equation, we've got all these guys that are milling out 80% receivers on ARs. However, what they're forgetting is the anodization process. That's where the rigidity comes in the material. Right. So that's exactly along the lines you're talking about.
Yep, that's a really good point. And homebrew anodizing is very doable. We do it here. We don't do it on our production parts, but for fixturing and stuff, you need battery acid and water and a battery charger. And that's kind of the game. Now there's a little more to it than that. But
don't try this at home.
Well,
there's
YouTube and don't sue us if you
watch a YouTube video. Fine.
But
we
no,
did not support this.
Right. Milled versus
just force mass it out of your battery in your car. It'll work perfect.
It'll be fine. It'll be totally fine. But no, milled receivers have a lot to recommend them. The major downside generally is weight. And like the first AK I bought was a milled receiver, and by the time I threw a handguard on it, I had a neck injury by the end of the first day when I took it to a class. And that started my loathing of milled receivers, and I happen to love them now. And I think there's a lot of upside to them, like the precision of the location of the fire control pins, the lack of any twist in the receiver in general. There's a bunch of good upsides to a milled. However, if you told me I had to jump into Red Dawn tomorrow, I'd be grabbing a stamped gun. Just because of the weight benefits without much downside, unless you're talking about the last couple % of awesome.
Good point. I like that.
Thanks,
so
Brian.
I want to get into, you're talking about stamped and milled and, the different materials, I guess, versatility that they can be made from. We're seeing a lot of these polymer ARs come out these days, and the 3D printed stuff and, all that. And I think even the AKs, you could 3D print a AK receiver these days.
Ain't gonna last very long.
I don't think it's gonna last long in any platform, any of those. But you're seeing
well,
pistols.
I can
Marty,
speak to to some of the non-traditional AR lowers.
Hybrids seem to work okay.
Well, not the Omnis, but
I meant the polymer reinforced with steel.
No, so I have a carbon fiber AR lower that I've been running on my competition AR that it's 100% carbon fiber, and like even the threading for the buffer tube, and it's by Tegra Arms. Their subsidiary or some part hooked in with New Frontier Armory, and I have beat the crap out of that rifle. Now I wouldn't call it a duty rifle. It's also, it was a $60 receiver, and AR receivers are, $50 a throw. So I have a stack of them in my safe at home that if it would break, I would just go to a, aluminum one. But with it, I mean, I think that weighed somewhere in like 8 to 10 ounces is what that receiver weighed stripped.
Mm-hmm. And it's because it's carbon fiber. I mean,
I've ran that
What's the price point on that? Just curious, on a complete carbon fiber lower.
Oh, this was so it wasn't complete. I had to put all the internal components in it.
No, I mean, completely made
lower.
of carbon fiber.
Oh, for the strip lower, it was under $100.
That's not bad.
Reasonable, yeah.
Yeah, that's doable.
Yeah.
And it's it's a carbon fiber. Like even the threading in the back was carbon fiber, and I mean it's held up. I've ran it for since I think 2016 or 17 for 3-gun and competition every year, and that's chucking it into barrels. And it's not my training rifle or what I take to classes or what I would call duty grade, but it's
a race gun.
Yeah.
So, Ken, you were going to say something before he got into that. I brought up the polymers and the 3D printed.
Yep.
Let's talk about what you were going to say about that.
So just to keep comparisons semi-equal here, we talked about a stamp receiver versus a forged receiver on the AK Cam series. I think Nick probably has some background to talk about billet versus forgings, because that's more the equivalent that we'd be talking about on the AR side. So why don't we get into that a little bit, Nick?
I agree with that.
So billet versus forging. Well, there's even like a gun meme page that's called 5 forges, because everyone says, well, there's only like 5 forges. Because in the AR world, you have different companies who get charged different amounts for things, and it's, well, why is this piece of aluminum $300 and this one $30? And a lot of times you'll get into the difference of forgings versus billet. So a billet, if you didn't, or for anyone who doesn't know, is a chunk of raw aluminum, or not raw, it's a chunk of aluminum. Yeah, one large piece that will then had various machine processes done on it in like a really nice Haas machine center like Brian has, and they will crank out all of the different stuff, and
Brian's real big on Haas right now.
Yeah, no, even I was gonna say even nicer in general than what I have. A lot of it's actually fairly difficult to machine an AR-15 receiver, and they use mostly what are called horizontal milling machines for them, which are bigger and badder and awesomer than what we run. But yeah,
so they take this one piece of metal and then cut everything out of like a rectangular block, and that's where your AR lower comes from if you have a billet receiver. Now the best ones would be a matched upper and lower that come out of one piece of billet, where they cut the entire thing out of one piece of aluminum. So theoretically, even the grain would be the same, because metal does have a grain to it a little bit. It's not quite the same as wood, but there is stuff where internal fracturing lines could happen, and they would be in the same thing. Now a forged receiver is different, because they will go through and have the initial shape that they want to do, and generally by hammer or giant hydraulic press, they will heat aluminum up or material, whatever it is, and then slam these things together. And hammers or hammer forged, it would be what it would be called, and out pops your little piece, and then you do just the cleanup machining on the end of it to get things pushed out. So a lot of the prototype stuff back in the day was billet and made from one piece, where they did all that. Now most commonly they're all forged, and there are arguments to be had back and forth. And I know that we have thrown it around a term a lot today or tonight, and that is mil spec. And just so everyone is aware, mil spec does not mean it is the best, because there is a mil spec for everything. And there is even mil spec beer. Actually, there are 2 of them.
Budweiser.
So one is Coors Light.
It has an NSN number, baby.
Coors Light has an NSN number, and so does Budweiser.
That's why I drink rum.
You have a choice of getting either light beer or regular beer, and it's Coors Light or Budweiser.
Is there a whiskey, mil-spec whiskey?
There is, but I haven't found who it is. I think it's like
Jack
Midwest
Daniels.
Distillers.
Jack Daniels.
Yeah, I like Jack Daniels. That's a good point, Ken. Thanks for clarifying the point I was trying to make there.
While we've got the AR nerds in the house, do you guys this is a point of curiosity for me. There's an AR forging. I don't touch them, but I look at them occasionally. There's a keyhole icon on some of the forgings. Do you guys know what that's about? Like what forge that maps to, or what the story is? Because that's the only forging mark I ever see.
So
Go ahead, Nick.
I was gonna say I don't know all of the. There is a proof mark as well on a couple of the other ones. I don't know them all. I know the keyhole one you talk about, and I want to say that had something to do with Colt because they'll say it's a key marked.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Hold on, I may have an answer here. Go ahead and keep talking.
But no, and that comes down to being like Maker's Mark, or Maker's Mark's. Well, Maker's Mark is a great whiskey though, since we were just talking about that. But
We like to refer to that as bourbon in the South. Thank you.
yes.
Is this the keyhole
Bourbon has a nice name to it.
about, Brian?
Yeah, that sucker. Totally.
That right there.
Yep.
The Omega.
Yeah, and when you get into some of those forging markings, it kind of becomes like, oh, I wish we had them from Factory 47 on to go through some of the different house stamps they had from AK factories.
Yeah.
Although you don't see near as many. A lot of them don't even push that out anymore. Just for what they're doing. It's only a handful of companies that still really keep those alive.
Well, and in the case of an AK, like on a bolt or a trunnion, sometimes you'll see like 7 different proof marks. And those are old school travelers. And it goes to my argument that this was not a shitty peasant gun. Like there's so much, like the QC steps along the way with the AK, and you can still see them today on the WBP parts that we use in our guns. There's proof marks all over the place and the easiest one is if you see a little kind of a pinprick on a part, and this could be AR or AK. It literally looks like somebody shoved like a Bic pen, a very sharp Bic pen into the metal, or a center punch or something. That's a hardness testing mark. And so you'll occasionally see that on some of our steel parts. And that's not a blem. That's a mark that we checked your part. And we don't, there's some things we do 100% QC on, but we use a nice enough heat treating surface where a whole lot gets done at one go in a very nice vacuum furnace. And they test 3 or 4 for us on a machine that's way better than ours. So we'll test like 1 out of the lot just to make sure that, people are on the ball. But yeah, the consistency now with modern heat treating is amazing in how even it is. You can imagine like when you're making cookies or something in the oven and you got a shitty old oven, the ones in the middle will be burned and the ones on the outside will be raw. That's a real thing in heat treat if you don't know what you're doing.
Yep. Now when we were talking about that, 'cause you're talking about like a rifle being an old traveler and stuff like that, and the differences between the two systems. The major benefit of the AR over the AK is its interchangeability. Like I know we said earlier when we were making fun of Olympic arms, with you might not be able to drop that upper onto another lower or versa vice.
Point.
You wouldn't want to.
Yeah.
But like I can take a Palmetto State lower and put a Daniel
Most
Defense
of the
up.
time.
Yeah, and put a Daniel Defense upper on it. Or versa vice. And going across, because the mil-spec standard across all the different makes, you can generally grab all of them. Like granted, there's some oddities where you can't move things around because they are very proprietary.
Yeah, like was it LWRC? They have a lot of proprietary stuff. LaRue, that's who I'm thinking
Yep.
of. LaRue, yeah.
I mean, and Wilson has some proprietary stuff as well with some gas block and how they journal barrels. But I know that the reason why I bring this up, where you can have different people manufacturing different parts, is like there's a company called White Label Armory who does a ton of OEM work on the AR world. And anyone can kind of be up and sign up and get parts for them if you're a dealer, or like anyone can just order AR parts through them. They make one of the coolest things ever for it's called an armorer's kit, and it's just all the little springs and shit that break on guns in its little tackle box.
That break on ARs.
Excuse me, Nick. Yes, that break on ARs. Thank you, Marty.
Yeah. But hey,
Let me
I've had a
throw in a
bullshit.
quick one with that. Nick.
off your AR when you field strip it.
So the point you're trying to make, Nick, is you were talking about the
Yep.
mil spec that when
No, I was saying not.
spec, and the
They-
company abides by that, then the interchangeability that you're going to get with the
Yep.
rifles is a
But
benefit.
I think what he was saying was, I honestly, I think what he
What was
said
he saying,
first
Andrew?
was actually wrong, because he said the advantage of the AR-15.
What are these?
Well,
I see it as a disadvantage of the fact that all the parts have to be interchangeable because the shit breaks all the time or you lose it all the time.
well,
You know,
because
Screw around with it.
Does
I was-
anyone go to a large big box store and see spare parts kits for AKs all over the wall? I mean, I don't. Brian, have you ever seen one? Like at Academy?
Negatron.
Yeah, I
Not
don't
a
think
thing.
so, but I think that every major manufacturer makes a lost parts kit for the AR.
we
That's because idiots
we
mess
have to
around.
do a
Vantage you forgot to put the DIS in front of it.
so
well,
Just throwing that out there.
when we get into this, I had a point I was going with this. So
Oh.
Go, Nick, go.
There yet? Are you there? Have you made it?
no, I haven't got there yet. I was leading
Okay.
up to it because I was going to talk about because you can order pretty much parts if you want to change it up or do the customization of your rifle, and can pretty much order any AR parts as long as you know. The biggest thing you have to worry about is if you have, a carbine mid-length or rifle length gas system. But try and order handguards for an AR that isn't a Merc. Or I'm sorry, for an AK that isn't a Merc. And you're going, which one is this? Because okay, did Poland use this length? Is this a Yugo? And then when we go back even further, I know I've really been beaten up on the Tabuk, and I should let the AK guys explain why the Tabuk was bad.
Well, that's a whole.
I'll have
nother
to
show.
admit
That's a
that
whole nother
that
show. Oh,
yeah,
that's
well, Nick's
Hey, Burns,
struggling
it's a book.
mightily, so I won't.
But
I won't.
the book is
I'll-
like
I'll
the
shut up.
Olympic, my friend. It's like the Olympic. It just wasn't done right.
I mean, even the name to book. It was just.
Yeah, the Tabuk was the Iraqi-made variant, where they took a clone of a clone.
And reverse engineered the clone of the clone.
Did you make
Yeah.
the point, Nick?
Bad sci-fi. Just don't do it.
Yeah.
Oh, my point was more on all the parts mesh together, especially for customization, and they don't do that on your AK side.
Okay, good point.
And,
Is
I,
that
and,
good point or
and
not
to
a good
count
point?
that, I will say that is changing as the U.S. market keeps developing and we get more U.S. manufacturers making AKs. That's becoming less and less of an issue. A lot of parts in AKs now are becoming interchangeable with multiple brands, just depending. That's not always the case, but we also, in the U.S., you want to put a Magpul handguard on your AK, buy a Magpul handguard. It's going to fit everything with the Yugo pattern. And if it doesn't fit, you just hit it harder with a hammer.
Same thing with Midwest, and Midwest will make things for certain, like the Yugo that you can buy. You can get a handguard for it.
Yeah. So
Sure
I mean,
Shot USA does the same
Really
thing.
hoping Troy will
That's
join us tonight.
a thing you could say is better about the AR is that it has more interchangeable parts and more stuff available for it. But that is
Yeah.
changing rapidly with the AK. Pretty much any type of accessory you want to add on your AR now, there's probably a very similar piece that you could put onto an AK at this point. But
Yeah.
10 years ago, that wasn't true at all.
Yeah.
Yep. Also, except for silencers, because that whole thread's being concentric to bores.
Yeah.
But U.S. made AKs again, as Americans have brought this to the table, we concentrically thread our barrels in the U.S.
Thank goodness.
Yes.
Just don't get one.
No,
pin-
that was, but
or-
that was very
or-
much.
or you don't have.
No, Nick, you're very right, and I look forward to the day when the U.S. successfully issues a mil spec for the AK, which they were purportedly working on for quite a while. But that will be great, and I look forward to the day when there are publicly available prints. There are a
Besides
lot
that,
of,
man, who decides the specs for an AK?
well,
The mil spec for an AK, if the U.S. were to mil spec one,
The U.S. Material Command.
Yeah.
So the government?
Yeah, that means the government, Marty. Sorry. Yeah, I know it ain't gonna happen, and I know it's gonna blow goats, but you know, like, it is what we're working with here, man.
Why can't the companies, the manufacturers, just get together and do that themselves?
Well, the closest thing that has come to for that happening, actually they did that a couple of years ago on the AR side, but with the AR-10 platform. Because at one time there were 3 different mags that you would run in AR-10s.
Yeah.
Rock River had their own version. Armalite had their own that was like converted M14 mags. And then Knight's Armament with the SR-25 and then DPMS hitched their wagon to that.
Mhm.
And when the SR-25 got selected to be used in limited function by the military at first, then they standardized on one magazine instead of running all these different mags.
And that was through the government because all these people had government contracts, right?
I would say that it wasn't because of the government. It was because we had one platform that got chose by the government, and then other manufacturers said, well, that's what we're going to go with now when we develop our 308. So
Because they get government
decided
contracts.
to make a 308. Smith & Wesson decided to make a 308.
They
Ruger
wanted to
decided
get
to make a
government contract.
308.
Yeah.
Yeah, went with that pattern.
Yep, and it was,
Yeah.
and that one mag is what standardized the AR-10, because before that there was a whole bunch of different stuff, and you kind of had a lot of
Beta
issues.
and VHS, Marty. You're old. You'll get that.
I got it when he said it the first time, Andrew.
Okay.
Well, and this is a good time for us on the AK side to roundly acknowledge the genius of Eugene Stoner. Phenomenal gun designer. He didn't design the AR-15, which is a giant hunk of shit. But the guns he did design were fucking amazing and really nice, and just a brilliant designer. He used cutting edge tech to change the gun industry. So we're giant fans of Eugene Stoner, just not the thing he didn't make, the AR-15.
What was his name? Shipley?
Sullivan.
Sullivan, okay. Sullivan.
I like his
Sullivan.
Mini 14 way more than I like his AR-15.
His what, 15?
His Mini 14 way more than I like his AR-15.
Mini 14 is a good rifle.
Which, you know, funny we should get to that while we're discussing Mini 14s. You know why they came out with a Mini 30, right? Because everybody thought the Mini 14 was underpowered.
Well, let's get into the cartridges. This is something that we discussed in round 1 last year. The AK is, and let's keep it at the originally designed rounds for those 2 platforms, because as we all know, the AR can shoot anything nowadays. The AK is coming around, and there are people experimenting with all kinds of different cartridges for it. Let's just stick with the 2 Defiant Munitions. Absolutely, yeah, great company. Got my own sponsors of the Talking Lead AK Corner. So let's talk about the 5.56 versus the 7.62 x 3.9.
I mean, are you even going to argue it, Nick?
Yeah, I
Battle.
will.
Battle
Jesus
purpose.
Christ. Really? Okay, we'll do this.
There are some
Prepare to
value
get
arguments.
bloody.
Go ahead, Nick, and I'll back you
No,
up.
there are some valuable arguments to this. So, obviously, we're not talking about Defiant Munitions here, but as we talk about the cartridges as they were originally designed for and what was fielded as, was kind of the intent on this. Brian, you said earlier that a 4 MOA rifle would be good. And now 4 MOA rifle with 4 MOA ammunition makes for a stack tolerance of 8 MOA. So when you're moving into
It actually doesn't. That's not true. They added in quadrature, but keep going, motherfucker. I'll cut you up a little more later.
But so 4 MOA ammo out of a 4 MOA rifle does not get better as it goes down, because burden primed, steel cased, lacquer finished, that was made by starving conscripts was not as good.
Really, let's be honest. It was probably really made by prisoners.
out in the gulag. I
Yeah.
mean, there was some amazing stuff back in the day that they did, like in Vietnam, where they would put in intentionally hot loads that looked and felt like real 7.62x30 Noun rounds that would grenade because they made plastic explosives that looked just like the powder that would be detonated by the powder or by the primer.
To be clear, that was the CIA, not the Russians, intentionally doing that, right? Yeah.
I mean, what are they the same sometimes?
That's a good
Sometimes
episode.
one starting to think.
Paul Markle talked about that on a few episodes back. He actually talked about them sabotaging the Vietnamese ammunition stashes and things like that. So that's pretty cool.
But so there is ARs typically have a higher velocity than the 5.56 round has a higher velocity and is accurate to a longer range, even with iron sights, than your typical 7.62x39 is. As you can talk all about my stopping power, and sound like somebody who won 2 world wars, but we could also talk about point accuracy going out to distance, and that is where the AR really shines. Because even the M16, it's a 2 MOA rifle with 855 ammo as 2 MOA ammunition, and at 300 yards that work out in 18 inches and stuff like that. But there is a definite benefit to speed over slow and heavy.
Ken, anything to add to that? Did he do a good job talking about that? I thought he did.
He did. The only thing I'm going to add to it is just from some modern experimentation, like we talked about a couple months ago. When we do weigh the 7.6239 against either M855 or standard 55 grain ammo, the 5.56, when we're looking at the typical civilian defender, home defender, it has some advantages on the indoor environment over a 7.6239. So if we're going in that direction, in our experimentation against common architectural barriers, we have actually seen that M855, so steel core ammo, tends to deviate at a higher percentage after the first impact, basically reducing the amount of energy behind the round and stopping in the least amount of wallboard and or typical architectural features. So from that particular standpoint only, you could certainly say that the 5.56 cartridge has an advantage. Now we can easily switch sides and say an AK can be chambered in 5.56, but we'll stay with the 7.6239 for a second. 7.6239 happens to be my favorite round, no matter which way you look at it, and it's because it is a barrier penetrator. So you have to realize that when you're shooting it. That's the start point. It will penetrate typical motor vehicles very, very effectively. A 5.56 will not nearly as effectively. When you're looking at concrete, or if you're looking at light steel, or you're looking at typical architectural features, 7.6239 will defeat it every day of the week. 5.56 will, but what it will do beyond defeating that initial impact is very questionable. So again, when we're looking at it from a civilian user, a civilian defender, a typical law officer, Joe Cop that's working on his own budget, is carrying his own ammo, doesn't know what he's going to be getting, or the typical homeowner that's got a handful of ammo. Those are the type of comparisons that we really need to look at. It's not the ballistic gel tests. As we mentioned during the podcast that we did, Marty, a typical ballistic gel test is an 18-inch block or a 24-inch block, and it's shot horizontally. Well, the typical soft matter, meaning i.e. human being and or dog or coyote, they're only between 6 and 8 inches thick in typical size. So having all that extra wound channel and what it does over 12 inches is completely irrelevant. What it does within that 5 to 6 inches, and then what it does upon exit and where it goes from there, is highly relevant. So that's really the direction we're looking at. So Nick's not wrong. Talking about overall when we're shooting distance, you can certainly zero to an AR with a 5.56 more readily than you could a 7.6 239 out of an AKM, or even if we're switching to 5.45. Just the way that their dynamics are similar to the 5.56, but still not quite the same. So
we should maybe talk about what the rounds were originally designed to do.
Yeah, for sure.
And what they were for, because you know, this wasn't designed for the penetration. It was designed to get in there and tumble.
Yep. So and that requires velocity, right? So one of the big arguments here is during the, let's go the late 2000s, there was a change in the overall AR market to try to get shorter and shorter and shorter. Everybody wanted an SBR, and everybody wanted the shortest possible SBR they could possibly get. However, they're shooting 5.56 ammo, which was not intended to be shot via such a short barrel, losing all that velocity. So in order to achieve the tumbling effect that is necessary to actually defeat soft matter, you have to be up in that, you know, let's, for argument's sake, say 2,900 FPS range. The reality, the mil spec is right around 3,200 feet per second. So trying to keep that rate of speed going, you need to be at a 13+ inch barrel on a 5.56 cartridge with the right powder, which is actually what Nick was referring to earlier as being, you know, the problem system altogether. So those things need to be argued before you go anywhere else. So it's barrel length, overall velocity, and weight retention on the actual projectile.
Anything else to add to your ammo there, guys? We're gonna move to the AK. Brian's chomping. He's ready.
Yeah.
He's got some good arguments. I already know what they are.
And Andrew's got his finger up. You're muted.
Sorry, I had to pee.
Didn't need to share that.
Talk about, you didn't even give it the one real advantage of it is that it's smaller and you can carry more of it. Come on, guys. Where's Team AR at?
Yeah.
You know, I understand that because we talked about McNamara's WizKids before. That was the last episode when we really got into that. When you let mathematicians pick a rifle caliber, this is what they do. And like that's we discussed that in the last episode, so I didn't think we needed to hammer it as much here. But the interesting thing about that was, like, do you know how many rounds were fired per enemy hit in World War II by the Allies?
Insane.
No.
I mean, it's got to be thousands.
It's like over 250,000 rounds.
Oh yeah.
Fired for every one hit.
Oh.
Of course, in that they did like include you know, like aircraft, I'm sure, but that was part of the reason for the switch was you could carry more ammo, and that's, you know, like Andrew brought up, is, you know, 308 when they went to that, you know, dark time that we don't talk about, when they were.
I love the 308, bro.
Oh, I love the 308 too. I've got a pile of them. I just really don't like the M14, and I own one.
There you go.
Yeah. I have a lot of guns that I don't like. That's how you know you're a true nerd right there. You find guns you don't even like.
Yeah.
Like, I really want an FAL, and I don't have any good reason other than it's the right arm of the free world.
That's right, baby.
Same.
Yes, sir.
Yep.
Yeah. Big time.
When you find a good one, let me know.
Let's get into the M62 by 39 now.
All right, Brian, take it away, buddy.
All right. Just to get some nerd cred back here, very interesting fact on how you stack MOA, and you do it like the Pythagorean theorem when it comes to statistical stuff. So you square 4 and you add it to square 4, so that's 32. And then you take the square root of that, and that gets you 5.6 MOA for a 4+4 deal. Now, the all up accuracy we get off of our guns is actually using ammo that's made in Siberia at the Barnaul plant. And so, believe it or not, I know it's very hard to believe, but I've measured the tolerancing on Barnaul ammo, and it's phenomenal. The variation in case size for headspace is around 1 to 2 thousandths of an inch. It's really good, which is one of the things that's so important for accuracy, is a consistent headspace and seal for that gas.
Hey, Brian, Barnaul uses boat tail bullets as well, don't they?
Believe so. They've got that funny, you'll know it's Wolf Polyformance is the stuff we shoot, which is actually made by Barnaul, and it's very different from Tula. There's like I'm not an ammo nerd, but there's a little line right near the case where the case meets, and yeah, the bullet is shaped differently after there from Wolf or anything else. They do have, you can see lead in the ass end though. It's sort of the copper swaged over, and you can see lead in the back there. Let's see. So yeah, the tolerance off steel case commie ammo is friggin' legit. Now, I do have a question, pop quiz here. Why is AK ammo steel case?
Why is it steel cased?
Yeah. Because communism sucks. That's why.
It's like there's no good reason.
That's right. That's right. Because communism sucks. Now that said, it actually works really great in an AK, but yeah, communism sucks. So anyway, let's see for
Brian,
yeah.
Brian, hang on that point. So talk to the point of the type of steel that's used in the 7.6239 casing, because that makes a difference.
I don't actually know, other than that it's fairly soft, which allows the case to swell a little bit in the chamber, and that gives a good gas seal. But I actually don't. Enlighten us here, because you probably know something I don't.
I do. Some of the stuff I've heard from a couple of different ammo importers, and I don't have the, I can't say this is actually, this is actual fact. What I have heard is that specific, and I forget, it's A25. I can't remember the designation for it. We'd have to look it up. But that specific steel typically only comes from Russia. So it's something that we don't necessarily have a specification on. And to be able to pull that steel in the correct dimension and subdimension, meaning that as that case is elongated, it doesn't lose the, what's it called?
Ductility would. Oh,
right. Thank you.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah.
So that process is difficult, and that material only comes from one location that I've been made aware of. But again, I don't know that. I haven't researched it beyond being told by a couple ammo importers. So I don't know
you're quite right. The difference, the steels that are, when we say 4140 here.
Yep.
That's not necessarily what Europeans are using as specifications, just as you're saying. And it's been a little bit tricky as AK manufacturing is ramped up in the United States to match alloys in the way that's important. And you'll see that it manifests in somewhat unfortunate ways. Like we were talking about a trigger that's made out of tool steel.
Yep.
That's too hard and not matched to the other components in the gun. And so it's something I've had a fair amount of heartache over, and the best I can come up with is that 4140 is awesome and I use it for everything, and that tends to be fine. But in the case of like receivers, when you get a Morrissey or a Nodak, well, I'm pretty sure Century uses Morrissey, PSA uses Morrissey. I don't know that KUSA, no, I do know, I think they do as well. Everybody's pretty much using the same receiver manufacturer, and they don't have 1mm steel in the United States. And so you'll notice if you measure a US made receiver, the thickness of the sheet metal will be very slightly different from the specification because of the gauging mismatch in the way that steel is manufactured in the United States. So yeah, that remains a challenge across multiple dimensions of AK subcomponent manufacture.
I will say Century uses 1.5 mil receivers, and they always have, just like the Chinese.
Yeah, it's like an RPK thing. It's
you
very
say
heavy duty.
You say just like the Chinese as though it's a good thing.
I say it is like a good thing. They make a damn.
They build a good AK.
They make a damn good AK.
Yeah.
I would carry a Mac 90 Norinco into combat before I'd carry a Colt AR-15.
Truth.
Yeah, and I
Fair.
would even take the piece of some whole stock.
So for you're very right about accuracy at distance with the 5.56 round, and if you're at 500 rounds and opposing an AR-15, it's absolutely critical to wear safety glasses because you might get your eye poked out. You won't sustain any tissue damage, but you really could. This is critically important. It doesn't have to be a great pair of safety glasses. They can be the $1 pair that you get at the range when you forget your own. Just bring those along with you because you might get an eye, maybe not even poked out, just some corneal damage. Like, safety first, guys. You will never have to worry pretty much, and I'm speaking facetiously, guys, about over penetration with an AR-15. So that is not one of the problems. With an AK, that's a very serious risk. Over penetration, you might go clean through a car and have somebody on the far side of that car get injured. And boy, would that be terrible. So yeah, 5.56 all the way. If as long as you're wearing your safety glasses and you know, you're not trying to get through anything, then 5.56 wins 5 days out of 5.
I'll speak a little bit to that steel case issue that you were discussing. I do know quite a bit about ammo. I sell it, so I know a little bit about it. But
yeah, lay it on us.
For you to chime in.
What you're saying about the Russian steel, that's a real legit thing, and it's come up a lot lately because of the Russian ammunition ban. Everyone, I literally was asked this question 3 times today on sales calls. Why don't we just make it here? Why don't we just make it here? Why don't we just make it here? Because we don't know how to extrude those cases and make those steel cases properly. There's been several companies that have attempted it. They kicked it to the curb and said, we're not going to do it. It's not worth it. Now with the Russian ammunition ban and the majority of 760x39 coming from Russia, it's coming up again. People are asking that question again. For us, it's way easier and honestly cheaper just for us to make it out of brass. So the thought process of the U.S. people, you know, us starting to make steel case ammunition here doesn't make a lot of sense, doesn't hold a lot of water. But when you say it's a specific steel you can only get in Russia, that's not necessarily accurate. If we wanted to spend the time and we wanted to spend the money to make that steel here, we certainly could. I mean, this is the United States. We have the ability to do more than any other country in the world. Let's just be honest. If we wanted to do it, we absolutely could, and we could absolutely make that steel here in the United States. It just doesn't make sense to us because we already have brass. We already know how it works. We already know how to make it, and we already have machines to do it. So
that's a good point too, is when these rifles were designed, that's what the case, you know, that's what they were designed around. The AK was designed around a steel case ammo, and the AR was designed around a brass case.
And you know, a lot of people think that steel case came up after World War II. It's not true. Steel case was an extremely popular thing during World War II, but it was being used previous to World War II as well. So it wasn't like, you know, the Russians developed it by any means. I mean, I just got a case of World War II 8mm steel core, steel cased, you know, loaded in 1944. So,
yeah.
Was that? Do you know, Andrew? Was that resource based? I mean, I'm speculating, but did they go steel case because of resources?
It's cheaper. I mean, that's the bottom line. Is it's cheaper. That's why the Germans went to the steel, because they couldn't get the brass.
There you go.
So they developed a process to manufacture 8mm with steel case. They were making both at the same time. You can find head stamps from almost the same month, same year on crates. I've actually opened surplus crates of ammunition that are mixed.
Wow.
With boxes of brass and boxes of steel in it.
Wow.
From like late, you know, like 44, 45.
Yeah.
And mixed pallets are very common, very, very common, a mixed pallet. But yeah, like you can literally bust open a wooden crate and literally have not boxes, but you'll have 10 boxes of steel and 10 boxes of brass. It's not uncommon to see that.
Well, and if we think about what brass is constituted from, it's zinc, who gives a shit, but then copper, which is a big deal and relatively scarce, and then lead is one of the chief components in brass, and obviously lead is useful in bullets. And steel, I've been learning about how to make steel because I'm terrified about our country's future and learning about how we smelt and all that. And steel, while is actually, it's worth learning about. There's a YouTube channel called How to Make Everything, where they're starting with a rock and they've moved through the Bronze Age and mined their own bronze, and they've made all the stuff. They've made their own firing furnaces and everything. And steel, it turns out, is like a multi-step process. It is not easy. Like, you have to make pig iron before you can even think about making steel. And what Andrew's talking about, I should clarify. Yeah, totally. We can make technically any alloy we want here. And measuring that is easy. That's my old business with using X-ray spectrometry. And you can look at, basically, you shine X-ray light on metal, and the rainbow that comes back, if you use a detector, you can find out all the little constituent elements in there, down to the little bits of silicon and magnesium or whatever that's in there, calcium. The problem is getting a big ass foundry to make a little company a little poor. And Century has the benefit of being large enough where they can actually have their own alloys made relatively easily. And even in casting houses, you can get custom pours done. I've had it done, and it's really cool. If you guys ever have a chance to look at how investment casting works, all the casting that's involved in the AK is more or less investment casting. And they will keep this big ass pot of steel hot, and then periodically they'll measure it with one of these tools that I used to design parts of, and they'll check that the alloy is still in spec for what is 4140. And they will add, they have like Dixie cups of different alloying minerals or metals in there, and they'll just add a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and it's like watching a bartender, a really good cook or chef or bartender, where they'll just salt in a little of this, little of that, check it again, know that they're back in spec, and keep pouring. So yeah, well, it's like Ben Franklin said to the lady who asked if we have a democracy or republic, and he replies, it's a republic if you can keep it. And we have the tech if we can keep it. And all you guys who are at home looking for jobs, the trades and these technical fields of actually making shit, dude, nobody's there. So for you young folks out there, this is an amazing time to get into the trades and learn about something like casting or extrusions or forging. Learn how to do that, because you're about to become indispensable. Because all these people who are curling up
a lot of money that know how to do that.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. You can
go to school for like 2 years and not be in debt for 20 years to make way more than all your friends that went to 4-year school.
Yeah, my kids are bright, and there is no way they are going to college. 0% chance. And their mother, who has multiple graduate degrees, completely. She's actually the more fervent of the two of us about college. You kids, get out there, get a trade, and you got to make money, and you're going to be able to eat no matter what. You know, the electricians, the plumbers, the carpenters, the roofers are not going to be the ones who starve in the next few years. True. Yeah.
Good point. All right. So we need to start wrapping it up here. So before I get to the listener comments, whatnot, let's hear closing arguments from each team here. So go with Team AR. Team AR, why is the AR the better rifle?
All right. Well, I'm going to say this. I'm going to do one thing where because we've all jumped back and forth from teams on this. And as someone who has spent hundreds of hours on a range on brass detail, I have wished for steel case ammo so many times. But
yes.
Yes.
Yep.
Just for range details, we had to go out and do that. But anyways, so the AR comes back to again, we've talked about it before. I know we said the same thing last time. We didn't get near into the modularity of it, or talking about mounting optics this time, or anything like that. And I know that there are a handful of ways to do it on an AK versus an AR, but the way that the AR has become almost a universal setup for how to put your optics on, the user configurability, how to, all of these things, the standardization of that rifle and platform across the board has made it where if you just want to go back to brass tacks as rifles were designed, you know, or if we're going to keep it at iron sights, even when you get into like running with irons or the ability to shoot, far more people are able to pick up and shoot accurately an AR. Well, it might not be, you know, child soldier approved. There are still many of them that you can hand to, like my daughter can run an AR no problem. I mean, she could probably figure out how to kickstart my AK too, but you know, we can run everything like that. And the, you know, ergonomics, well, you said, you know, an AK is not as bad as people say. And an AK only fits me if I'm wearing body armor. And that's why I have an adjustable stock on my AR. And it's the ability to have that to produce accurate fire on demand and be the same across the board for everyone is what makes it such an amazing platform.
Ken, anything to add?
Yeah, so I'll speak a little bit to the common practicality and acceptance of the AR. So although in our current political stance, people are looking at the AR as an evil thing, it is the American rifle. So as far as being a civilian defender and or local law enforcement officer, when you are either issued and or pick up an AR as your chosen rifle for protection, for recreation, for whatever you choose it to be, it is commonly accepted as visually this is a rifle that is seen everywhere. And along with that comes the commonality that Nick spoke at length to. Should you need extra parts, should you need ammunition, should you need magazines, they're readily available. Everyone, every place, every gun shop, every local law enforcement, whether it be a local cop shop right up through agency, has an AR-15.
In America.
Right. So, and it's American made. Right. Absolutely. Sorry. Go ahead, Mark.
Readily available in America.
100%. We're talking about in America. So CONUS, continental United States. And like I just mentioned, ammo availability. We just spoke at length about how cartridges and how they're made and about the metals involved and such. 5.56/223 ammo is readily available. Even given the situation that we're in presently, where it is not as available and more expensive than it had been, it's still quote unquote readily available. Where we can unfortunately have our pipeline for 7.6239, 5.45, and a bunch of others diminished, cut off, stopped. I mean, we know Hornady is making ammo. There's Fiocchi and a couple others, but as far as domestic ammunition, 5.56, that is where it's at. And I have compadres, including myself, that run either Galil's in 5.56 or a AK in 5.56 because of ammo availability and being able to cross over between those. So, you know, little hats off to our friends at IWI. They make probably the best 5.56 AK variant that is available on the manufactured market. So, you know, look at that as well, folks, because the Galil Ace is a top-end rifle.
You know, they're making their own ARs now too.
They are, yeah. The Zion, we've run a Zion now for I think over 2 years, and as a DI rifle, it's a fantastic build for a fantastic value. So if you're looking to get into a good solid AR that's built well, that shoots well, that you don't need to worry about, that you can add on to at a later point so you desire, that Zion, whether you get the pistol version or the standard 16-inch barrel rifle, Zion 15, it's a solid gun.
Yeah, and it's right in that like 800, 900 price point too, so it's pretty affordable.
It is.
For a high quality rifle.
Yeah, it's in direct competition with some of the other bigs. You know, like the SIG M400 series or Predator series. They're all in that same price point, so you just can't go wrong there.
So, question: Are there ARs being manufactured in other countries?
Yes,
a lot.
Lots of them.
Yeah. So China makes their version. I forget what it is. It's like a YZ85 or something like that, I think. I can't remember the designation for the Chinese. There's a Philippine one. I know South Korea, Daewoo makes one.
The Jordanians make an AR-15 that I've shot that was credible and was indistinguishable from the turds that are made here in CONUS.
Is that
Colt Canada? That's another one.
Yeah, Colt Canada, totally. Yeah.
Is it Sterling in the UK that's building their version of the AR?
Or in Canada?
Yeah, it would be a Sterling. That's what they still use because even their abysmal bullpup is there.
Yep.
Hey,
Now that turd we can all agree on. I don't think anyone's going to argue for that.
Good arguments there. So let's switch to Team AK now. Let's hear your closing arguments, Team AK. And remember,
Do it, Brian.
there's a missing.
All right. I was gonna let you get it. Get your licks in.
You know
first.
what? Hold on. One thing. I got one thing. Hold on.
It's your
All
first
right.
tactical tray at stake here. You know, it's
You know, I tried while Andrews. I found a toilet paper company that would make anything you wanted. And so I filled out their quote form because I had this brilliant idea to make ISIS flag toilet paper.
oh, that's awesome.
And they wouldn't make it for me. And they were like offended that I would.
False advertising.
That's what I'm saying.
I bet they make Trump toilet paper, freaking commie.
Yeah, exactly.
While we're waiting on
Oh, Primary Arms, nice.
I've got some new optics from Primary Arms.
AKs are better because
Oh shit!
Wolverines, baby. I don't even have to say nothing else.
You guys,
Yeah,
This
that's
shit's
right.
done. This shit is done. We win.
We win. We win.
Because the AK beat the M16 in a fictitious movie war.
Well, no, it did not beat the AK, and it did
I know,
not.
I'm teasing.
The AK, they did not because they did not have it. I do love that movie because it started out as just kids or people with bows and hunting rifles, and they wound up with like RPKs.
Yeah, it was awesome. It's the best.
Yeah.
Now, this is from our friends at Factory 47. If anybody wants to get one of these,
yeah. So what Andrew's wearing for our video crew is the Calmet High Wolverines logo T-shirt. You can use the code LEADHEAD at Factory 47, or you can get our logoed item here that they make. They make cups, hats. But yeah, you guys. So there's
47 with a K, not a C, folks.
Yeah, Factory 47 with a K. So that's your argument is that because Factory 47 makes cool T-shirts.
All right, Brian, go for it.
All right. So after thoroughly trouncing, I feel like there's a technique that Julius Caesar used in the Gallic Wars where he talked about how tough his opponents were, and so oh my God.
That's awesome.
Mr. Dooley has
I can't read the top.
sufficient speed, acceptable drag, and it's like the girlies, that are on the back of truck flaps, except that it's a Nick Dooley-sized mannequin, large mammal size. He's not quite as large as me, but he's acceptably large. And he's kind of in the same pinup pose with night vision, a skull crusher, and a tacked out AR-15.
Much more bosoms. Yeah.
Yep. So no, I think I would like to, kidding aside, the AR-15 is a real testament to American innovation and ingenuity. And I have to check this, but I'm pretty sure McNamara was a Democrat. And so they've started out way behind. The AR-10 was kind of a masterpiece prototype. The AR-15 started out with the worst of government procurement messing it up. And over the last 50, 60 years, American companies have really worked the bugs out to where it is a very fine rifle. And I keep bringing Jaeger up, but Jaeger has a great line that the AR-15 is like a scalpel and the AK-47 is like a hatchet. And I think that's very appropriate. In the hands of somebody skilled, the AR-15 is a very formidable weapon that gets a lot of work done around the world. So there's a ton
of because you're coming to Tennessee.
Sorry, say that again.
I said, I think you got Jaeger on your mind because you're coming to Tennessee.
Yeah, I just built. Oh yeah, if this comes out before then, I just finished a rifle for his benefit. He's unfortunately got ALS and is trying to go out in style with a fundraiser. And our production is more or less on hold for the moment. And so my guns are hard to get. We get a lot of people asking about how to get one. And this is a way to get one. So we're either going to auction it or raffle it. We'll be, publishing that on our website. Please follow Occam Defense Solutions on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, all that. And I'm not doing this as a plug for me. I really just want to see the most money for James for the last, his going out in style tour. So yeah, that's certainly why it's on my mind. I would be glad, he has another line, what's your favorite gun? And his answer is the one in my hand. And so if it's between a Glock and an AR-15, I'm taking an AR-15 every time. And so, really great weapon in the hands of skilled people. And it's amazing what American companies and, guys like Kirkham feeding back data from the field. Like he's given me a ton of great technical feedback that I've rolled into our designs on the AK because he carried that a lot. But, Seekin's Precision is down half an hour south of me, and he has a bunch of team guys that work with him to make his products better. And so when you have this meeting of people at the pointy end of the spear able to freely communicate with manufacturers to make the improvements that are needed, you get the improvements that we've seen. Like the M16 that first got deployed in Vietnam killed a lot of kids, and not, our guys, just by virtue of not working. If you fast forward to now, it's a different gun, and it's a very fine gun.
So you argued the AR. Okay. Good job there, Team AK.
Well, you didn't have to say anything else after it came out of the Marine shirt. We already won.
Oh yeah, we already won. I can count on one.
Just trying to win gracefully, Marty.
You just dropped the mic. Andrew came back with his T-shirt. I got you.
It was done right then and there. It was done.
I do take a shower after I touch an AR-15. It's super not pleasant, but that's just me.
All right, let's go to the listener comments here because I didn't ask for questions. I just asked for comments this time. J. Edgar Paradox, I think Brandon Herrera sums it up good. Honestly, I grab both. Team Freedom. AKM Archer, no simping for the other side this year. Take no prisoners. Too late for that.
Oh, shit. Sorry, sir.
Sorry.
He says, AK for the win, as always. If the AR was so great, then why don't you see it on other nations' flags? There's a reason. Go ahead.
I can answer that because
we
the
can all
U.S.
answer
wasn't
that, but I'd say we just let that one ride.
okay.
Yeah, no comment. Just let's fucking chill on that question, please.
There's a reason the AK is the most prolific battle rifle the world has ever seen. I also feel quite strongly with my hatred for the puny 5.56 round. So there's his
man among men.
Yeah.
Let's see. Oh, and this is to chime in on what we're talking about us getting shadow banned on social media. P-Man 301. I asked him to chime in on that comment because he's an AR guy. He said, I would chime in, but your posts are not coming up on my feed lately.
Right.
So there's a comment about that. Bailey Mueller Kalashnikov, because I don't poop where I eat, and my rifle shouldn't either. So that was something you guys talked about.
Hey, I think he needs a treat like a dump tray or something. He sounds with it and hip.
Yeah, I like him.
I'm going to read some more. Esom87, as much as I love my American-made Freedom dispensers, I have to side with the commie blasters on this one. So,
I don't know.
Team AK for reliability. I've only had one jam in my AK ever. My AR has a ton. That's Jessie Bedell. She's been shooting competitions lately, winning too.
Shit, yeah.
Boba 1776, Team Stoner, due to availability of parts and ease of maintenance.
I don't think this guy's ever taken an AK apart.
Well, you don't have to take AKs apart. It's
just
like
hit
the
'em.
Maytag repairman.
Just
Like,
flush them out.
And they'll work
Yeah.
with missing parts too.
They will.
Well, so will an AR. I've had M16s come in that were missing parts that were still running before.
Yeah, I mean, they don't have to have a muzzle brake to run, bro.
Oh,
oh,
Raider 214, Team Kalashnikov here. The AK-47 AKM allows for a much more portable platform between it being chambered in 7.62x39, provides opportunity for a shorter barrel without losing much in terms of capability. Its long stroke piston system creates capability to fold the stock without adding a potential failure point like you get with your typical AR folders. The parts are also minimal for a standard field strip, so it's easy to train someone in terms of operation or general maintenance. That's their argument.
well, we're looking like a bunch of crackers over here. Just have him on next time. Like, we're good for comedy, but that guy knows.
That guy knows his shit. We didn't even come up with half of that.
Hey, no sipping with him, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So Marty, pause there for just a quick second, because this is worth Brian actually giving a little 2 cents to. Brian, you might want to just let them know that AKs aren't plug and play. There's a thing called headspace and fitting, and it's a real thing. Do you want to just elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah, for sure. AR-15s, well, there's a bunch that are out of headspace all the time and nobody checks them. However, by design, the head spacing is done in the barrel and the bolt and the barrel extension on the back of an AR-15, which is fairly clever. With an AK, you have to very carefully position the barrel such that you have the proper headspace, and the width, the window of headspace is skinnier than 2 sheets of typing paper. And so if you haven't really done your homework, you can make a grenade pretty easily. Now, AR-15s do that automatically after a few thousand rounds. So like it's sort of like an automatic versus user initiated problem. But yeah, AKs are really much more difficult to get into. And I would say that is a good thing for there's so few things that men can work on today that it's turning us all into little, like SJW people. And so any opportunity that red-blooded American males have to get in and work on a thing is a really big deal. And the AR-15 is very approachable for people to get in and learn about it. I wouldn't necessarily say, I would say certainly that your first AR-15 should not be your duty gun, but it will make you a better shooter and a better citizen defender and a better person because you know how something works. And so the AR-15, from the standpoint of that idea of do it yourself, way better gun to be working on. And if you're not ready to spend $5,000 to build AKs, don't even start, is what I would advise. If you want to do it, jump in, both feet first, go take a class, and then start buying tooling. But you're gonna be in $5,000 pretty easily before you even really get going.
Thanks,
Hey,
Brian. That's perfect.
That commenter, Marty, who put that comment down?
What about him?
What was their name?
Raider 214.
I guess, was that who said it?
yes.
That had the big long comment that I just read.
Yeah.
Yep. The one who's AK-47 AKM team.
Yeah.
Oh, and if I could put in a 30-second plug for the 3D printing guys,
Nope.
I think they're fucking awesome. No, the thing is, you cannot have AW bands with 3D printed guns. The FGC9 is amazing. Those guys are doing a really important thing for us. They're the same as the people who cook meth in their trailer with a Mountain Dew bottle and some Sudafed and Coleman fuel. Like, they're ensuring that the war on drugs is a failure, and the 3D printing people are doing exactly the same service. And I know I threw in some snark at the end there, but I really do mean it sincerely. You guys who are 3D printing guns, you're making it friggin' impossible for these petty tyrants to actually get anything done. So I am tiger beat for 3D printing guys. It's awesome.
Nice.
Word.
Galaroo True. I don't know how you say that. GLAUTREU. AK. The AK has soul. Just simple put.
Got flavor.
Arms of Cascadia. I think I called him Arms of as something else. earlier. You said you know him, Ken?
Say
Oh,
again, I'm sorry.
I do actually. You said
That's
Acadia
Brian, yeah.
first, which
Yeah,
is
yeah.
really similar. Cascadia is his.
He knows who I'm talking about.
Yep.
AK all the way. These there's just something special about the sound it makes when you chamber around. It's not perfect, but seeing an almost 80-year-old platform on modern battlefields tells you about the genius of the design. There you go. And Brian, the reason I have my ACM towel is for my glasses, but I can't find my glasses. So a lot of good.
That's the most metrosexual ACM towel. Like what?
You called it my
scented candles. Like what are we doing here, sir?
I thought you got rid of your Cadillacs.
I
Oh, he
did.
still
I
can't
see close.
see it. Don't let him lie to you.
I can't see close. That was one of the trade-offs.
Yeah, now he's getting old timers.
Hey, I tell you, I got a new hip though. Hey,
Hey, no, thank
I
God.
got a new hip too.
Marty's actually going to be able to do some hunting this year, besides like 20 yards away from where he gets out of the car.
Right.
Hey, you're my boy, Blue.
My boy, Boot. Hey, I'm just making myself better for you. This is Corey Brown. He says, I love them both, but guess what? I have buried in PVC pipes en route to my shit hits the fan spot.
Ammo, skull, and Twinkies.
I'll give you 3 guesses, and the first 2 don't count.
Can you say ground penetrating radar?
Good luck finding
You're
your.
supposed to bury those PVC pipes on other people's property, not yours.
Right.
Yeah, right.
He says en route to his shit hits the fan.
Oh,
so,
nice. Good call.
Okay. All
He
right.
knows what's up.
yeah.
I'm just gonna keep hammering the Jaeger tonight. He has a great line. If you think it's time to bury your guns, it's actually time to dig them up.
And then NAMSALRAM. They are both so beautiful, it's so hard to choose, but AR if I had to for customization ability.
Fair.
I think I read most of everybody's there. FPS Murdoch, Team Kalashnikov, comrade. Got to get FPS in there. And then Facebook. Let's see if there's any on Facebook. Peter Wiktorski, Team 12 gauge.
Not
Okay.
wrong.
There's a
Not
12
even a little wrong.
Not even.
both platforms. AKs. I've got one back there. Actually, it's right there. KUSA 12 gauge, and then there's AR 12 gauges too.
We
The
don't
reason
talk
I
about
Tell
don't.
everybody, if I
Yeah.
could have one gun in the whole world, and there's only one gun I could ever have, it'd be an 870 pump.
Yep.
Real talk. Actually, quick plug for Genesis Arms. They're buddies of mine up in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho.
Yeah.
They make a AR-10 based receiver semi-auto shotgun that is friggin' off the chain. It is really, really nice. And they sell them to foreign militaries, and I think they do domestic stuff as well. But they have like these little semi-auto breacher guns and stuff that are just fly. They'd actually be a great guest, Marty. We got to get them on.
Well,
Yeah.
is their breacher? Isn't that a pump gun though?
The only ones I just know them as buddies. We share stuff. And when I was up there, I just saw a bunch of little AR-10 based shotguns that were awesome. And
Yeah, I've used one of those little baby breachers before, and they are not pleasant to shoot.
that I believe.
Hasn't.
But
I can't
they actually have a silencer that works with the whole action and everything. And so they've fixed a lot of. There might have been some growing pains early on. The stuff I saw was ridiculously nice.
Oh, I'm sure it kicks like a damn mule, though.
Not that bad, man. It's
Not that
crazy.
bad.
It's a really nice gun.
All right, back to
And then EJ Bogner, Team AK, through the mud and water, thick and thin. It's a dirty beast that won't stop and is always in shit hits the fan mode. No time for cleaning. True words, true words. All right, we're going to give away a SEAL 1 complete gun key cleaning care kit. to one of those listeners, Seal1, go seal1.com, use the code LEADHEAD, you get 25% off anything at seal1.com. Which listener comment do you guys think deserves the Seal 1? Great against corrosive. It's got great corrosive.
Let's give that to the AR guys to give away because it's something that they need a lot more than we do.
Seriously.
I don't know.
We can use anything. Bacon grease.
A lot of corrosion going on there. This is great for corrosion protection.
You know, I think that should go to the guy, the only guy who talked about the ease of maintenance on Team Stoner. So, Bft47
There you go.
Okay. What was the Boba?
Bft 1776.
Okay. Bobus, email me, talkinglead@gmail.com, and tell me what you won this episode, and we'll forward your information on to the gang over at Seal 1. I'll need your address also, somewhere to send the stuff to. And do not go to, listeners, do not go to my website and try to contact me, because I do not check messages on there and they don't get forwarded to me. Email talkinglead@gmail.com. That's where you get in touch with me if you have questions, comments, or if you win something and you want to get it. That's where you got to do it. All right, next one we're going to do a Mission First Tactical Talking Lead AK corner tray with the Century Arms logo on there.
Nice.
For the next one. So Team AK, you guys pick that winner.
Go for it, Brian.
Well, the guy that wrote the manifesto, we got to give that to him.
Pack of palm mags.
I'm into that.
Yeah, let's give him a 10-pack of palm mags. Raider
awesome.
214.
Okay.
Nice.
Sweet.
Yeah, give him a 10-pack of P mags or the US Palm Black, or what do we think? We'll let him tell me which ones he wants. The polycarb or the black.
Okay. Raider 214. You just want a 10-pack of US Palm mags, and you get to choose your color. The I call them smoky clear, but you call them whatever.
Polycarb, what they're made out of.
Polycarb or black. And we've got some cool things going on with US Palm and Mission First Tactical. Show them that shirt again, Andrew.
I wouldn't blow that out of the water just yet.
I ain't blowing it out of the water, but just a hint. Could be coming down the road. So all right. Now the tray. Who gets the tray? I'm gonna pick for the tray. How about that?
Do it.
You do it, Marty.
I think so.
I think I like. There's so many good ones here. Let's try to find somebody who hasn't won before. This GLAUTREU. I don't even know how to say that. Glue True, maybe. You may not even be a real person. Who knows? But I'm gonna give you an opportunity. TalkingLead@gmail.com. You win the Mission First Tactical tray.
What was their comment? They might recognize it from their comment over their butchery of whatever their username was.
The AK has soul. Just plain and simple.
I like that. Yeah, I did like that one.
Plain and simple. I like that. So
sorry, Marty, this is gonna kill me. Spell his username one more time.
GLAUTREU. Glotru. I don't know. I clicked on it and he don't have very many followers or following. He's only following 34 people. So it might be one of these listeners that I've told just to make up some Instagram account. So
it's almost like Glautreu.
Yeah, it's almost French, but not.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too.
Yeah,
I was like, must be French.
Yeah, I was trying to make
probably just like resorted Uranus into a random scrabble of he's like, let me see if I can get the Talking Lead guys to completely go sideways on this. And he succeeded. Well done, sir.
We do it on our own.
That's not a challenge.
You're right. It's
like this NAMSALRAM. Can you make anything out of that? Namsalarum. I don't know that one either. Let's see if they're following 131 people.
Are you giving them a prize, Marty?
No, I'm just saying that's.
Yeah, let's move on.
We're done. All the prizes.
Namsalaram? Nambla? What?
Yeah, I don't know. All right, so I don't think I can determine a winner this round. I think it's a draw.
Well, I'll let the listeners decide that, Marty.
Well, you listeners vote. I mean, the way I've got it even, because you guys were jumping on Team AR sometimes, and Team AR was jumping on AKs, and the pros and the cons and the benefits. I think everything was weighing out kind of equally, but we'll let the listeners decide their own. But I'm declaring it a draw officially, and you all win a custom. You tell me what you want on it. And
Wow.
you send me a JPEG of what you want on it, and our buddies over at Mission First Tactical will hook our
Is anybody at Hodor going to see that?
Hodor will see them, yes.
Is that the only person that's going to see it?
No.
Yeah, you guys know that wash your hands meme?
Don't tell me I can have anything printed on it, Marty.
Well,
there might be a Tito sweater on one. You're going to get it for Christmas.
I will run it through Hodor first, but he's pretty liberal, especially with the homies. So,
Sure.
Hey, Marty,
Yes.
here's one for you. I'd like to back mine up with what Brian's doing and help out Jaeger's thing that's going on.
Oh,
And whatever Jaeger wants for the ELO or the emblem or the logo to do as a
we'll do
raffle.
one for him also. We'll do one for him also.
Let's do that. Okay.
That's
You're
a
gonna
great
get
idea.
one.
Love
Ken's
it.
still gonna get one, but we'll do one
Okay. Cool.
for Jaeger also.
Awesome.
We'll
That'd be wicked. Yeah,
throw that in with the rifle and make it like a big package deal for your auction.
Right
I
on.
like it. I
Yep.
like it.
We'll also throw in some AK Corner T-shirts and our mugs, our Leddies, AK Corner Leddies, for that.
Send
too.
a couple AK specialist T-shirts to go with it.
That'd be amazing. Yeah,
Yeah, brother.
yeah. That'll be a really nice thing. Thanks, guys. That's perfect.
Anyways,
Absolutely, and some Seal 1 too. We'll
Excellent.
put in some packages of the Seal 1. So just get with me afterwards, and we can get a bunch of stuff. We can really build.
I see a plan hatching here that could be really cool over and above that other thing. Like that's going off this weekend. But if we do something separate, like it all goes to the same place. So, we can stagger this a little and send them a happy check from the Talking Lead family.
And
That'd be really neat.
Magazines, we can get some cool shit printed on the AK magazines now. So
Sick.
Hey,
Very
Keeney,
cool.
are you coming to Tennessee this weekend?
Yeah, I'll be showing up Friday night, leaving Monday night.
right on.
Yeah. So it'd be good
Right.
to see you.
Shake.
Yeah,
Jake
let's hook up at some
me
point.
and tell him I said hello.
Yeah. I'll tell
I
them
get
you
back.
guys
I
set up.
fly back in Friday at like 4 o'clock.
Okay, cool. Yeah, let's figure something out. That'll be fun.
Nice.
yeah, there's a lot of people coming in this weekend, Andrew, that we know. So
That's great.
we need to hook up. All right, so that does it for the AK Corner. Make sure you go and support our sponsors, Century Arms, US Palm. Andrew, what's going on new with Century Arms?
Man, all kinds of stuff, dude. We're just crushing it right now with trying to get as many AKs made as we can and get them out the door. I know everybody's, slowing down. The AK market is not slowing down. It's becoming a pretty much getting to be a pretty standard thing. Canic as well. We've got some new stuff that came out with Canic, the Canic Pro series, the Canic Rivals out now. Super, super cool pistols, great value. Just, the typical Canic.
Rivals look awesome. I really
Yeah,
like.
the Rivals are sweet. We got to get you out and get you some trigger time on that thing, Marty.
Yeah, I'm down. I'm ready. Let's go.
But yeah, AP5s have picked back up again. So the AP5s have been doing really, really well lately. We've got a $200 consumer rebate on the AP5s going all summer.
Nice.
Awesome.
That's not some BS prepaid Visa card garbage. We send you a freaking check for $200. You can go.
When's that expire, Andrew?
You can go put in your bank.
When's the drop dead on that purchase, Andrew?
September.
There you go. Thanks.
So it's going to run all through the summer. We're also I guess your leadheads will be the first ones. Friday, we're kicking off a Canik promotion on the Mete series. It's it's a rebate as well, but it's a 3 mag rebate. Extra magazines have been so hard to get lately, and that's not just from us, from a lot of other manufacturers who use the same magazine manufacturer. We actually got a new magazine manufacturer in addition to our previous one. So we finally are able to supply some extra magazines out into the market. We just wanted to kind of say thanks for being patient with us to our customers and offering a rebate of 3 free mags on the Canik Mete series pistols.
Very cool.
Right on.
Go show them some love. Follow them on their Instagram. And again, all of us on Occam Defense, Century Arms, the Nick Dooley's page. Y'all got an AR-15 Instagram?
Yep, we do. It's AR-15 Podcast 2.0.
2.0. And then Ken Allen Training on his Instagram, our Instagram. Go and like and reshare, push and promote our stuff because we are getting so heavily shadow banned. We're not getting out to everybody. And tell your friends, tell your buddies, you know, what's going on, that they need to go in and resubscribe to our post or whatever that is. I don't know what it is, but there's a button on your settings that you got to go and say, all right, I actually want to see posts from this person. Yeah. They've gone through and apparently across the board, they've just shut everybody's down involuntarily, started unfollowing people in your account. So you may find that you need to resubscribe to our channels. So
and honestly, people, I mean, folks that are that, like, they need to do that with all their 2A and all their gun people that they follow, because it's going to be a continuing effort from the people that run the social media to discredit and to lower the followers, to keep our stuff from coming up in people's feeds. So not just Talking Lead, obviously, definitely Talking Lead, but make sure the other 2A people that you guys are following, you're doing that with as well.
Yeah, the techocracy does not like the 2A.
Right.
No, and I think it's actually seeping into the podcasting as well, unfortunately.
Oh, sure. It is. Yeah.
I can't prove it yet, but I'm seeing some trends. So, Mission First Tactical, you go to their website, use the code LEADHEAD, you're going to get 20% off. And the dump trays, the wallets, their holsters, they make great holsters there too. You can get custom stuff printed on their AR magazines. They've got AR-10 magazines, and all that stuff you can custom print on. But even if you don't, just the black, regular colors, whatever they got, they're awesome. Great products there. And then their AR accessories with their hand guards, their grips. They make some really good AK grips there too. I don't know if they're still making those.
US Palm ones, but they're okay.
They're good. It depends on, they're like a pair of shoes, you know, it depends. Because
that's
I
right.
got
You heard me, Edelman. You heard me loud and clear.
Maybe that's why you got out, because yours are better. I don't know. But I think they still make those there. But check them out, Mission First Tactical. Of course, seal1.com. Use the code LEADHEAD for all your gun cleaning and protection needs, not just for cleaning, but for protecting your firearms too. You use the Seal 1, the CLP, Seal 1 and done. Put it on, you wipe it off, and you're done. It's that good. And you can use it on your boats, your marine items, and you can use it on your bicycle chains too. We were talking with Dwight the other day. You can pretty much put it on anything. It's going to protect it, wood, leather, across the board. And then, of course, Factory 47, we give James a plug. Andrew held up his shirt there, the Calumet. I don't have it on today. I'm usually wearing the AK Corner t-shirt. But you can go there, Factory 47. They have all the factory logos from all the AK companies, hats, T-shirts, flags, banners, you name it. They've got it there. Factory 47, code LEADHEAD. You get 10% off there. And then Brian was holding up some of his ammo earlier, Defiant Munitions, Pete Pie, Defiant Munitions. They make a really great round of all kinds of different. They make the 223, the 7.62-39. They've got 308. They've got 9mm. They've got all kinds of different calibers there.
You can say they're 9mm twice because it's that good.
It's a box of that shit. It is fire, dude. It runs real well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, especially if those Canics. Canics love it.
Actually, yeah, that's what I shot it out of.
Pretty sure.
use the code LEADHEAD all caps at Defiant Munitions. He's got to be different, and you get 10% off there. And then, of course, thank our buddies over at IWI. They're in that category also where they're getting shadow banned too. So go and like and support them. Let them know how much you appreciate them. They're going to be one of your sponsors along with Brian Keeney, Ken, for your Kalashtober.
Yes, sir. Yeah, they just, IWI has been with us for a long time. Jeremy Gresham's been a big time supporter, and IWI backing him up, and Brian as well. So one of the big benefits this year, Brian's got some product coming out, so there'll be some pretty happy winners getting some of Brian's products.
Most definitely. Yeah.
We greatly appreciate the partnership with Occam and Brian specifically. And, Jeremy over at IWI has just put up a 5.56 pistol, an ace pistol. So some winner is going to walk away with that.
Nice.
We have thousands of dollars worth of really nice prizes in all kinds of categories. You do not need to be the best shooter. We have the best beard, the person that traveled the furthest by air, the person that traveled the furthest by car, the person that showed the most heart, the person that
with a
best
hip.
sportsman. Sorry?
How about the person with a new hip?
Sure, why not? We can do one for those. The point is, you don't need to be the best shooter. Yeah.
Ken's event is definitely much different from the other ones, and it's much more participant based. It's more like showing up to an event where you're a student, and that's a big deal. And I'm a big fan of Red October and Kalash Bash, but those are different events, and what Ken does is special, and he covers a lot of ground that other people don't. And so it's worth making the trip up there, or if you're already in New England or the Northeast, it's easy. But even if you're not, it's a unique experience, and it's a much more cultural one with the gun culture, and just that there's a real shortage of good vibes right now, and there's a lot of good vibes up at Kalashtober.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate it.
And they can go to your website. Give it again, Ken.
Yep. So kenallentraining.us, and you can get more information there or register. And you're always welcome to send me a DM on IG or send me an email based off of the kenallen.us website, and I'll be happy to answer and get you all involved. Thank you.
For any of our companies that are listening, if you want a sponsor, there's sponsorships available, and you can get information there also.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
Very good. Nick, what's going on with the AR-15 podcast?
We're still plugging away. Been still able to do a show a week, even while I've been gone. There's only been, I think, one time when our schedules got a little too much where I couldn't get to where we were recording, but we're still putting out content, still doing at least one show a week, and we've got a lot of good guests coming on that are talking about stuff. One of the co-hosts right now is actually at a training course with Pete Pye, and it's a Haley Dynamics or Haley Strategic course. So
very cool. I know he's eating that up.
Yep.
Yeah. Brian, Occam Defense Solutions.
Yeah, as we are recording this, Austin is over on the manufacturing side bringing up our PH2 sights, and those have been that we got caught flat-footed with the manufacturer dropping out on us, and so we raised some money, and we've got a run of 500 going through the shop right now, and the parts that are made on a screw machine, which is, it's a little hard to explain, but a very expensive, complicated machine that makes small parts inexpensive when you buy a lot of them. We've got a big run of those going through for all the little, front sight post, all the little springs, the detents, all that stuff is being made right now. I think we're down to 1 or 2 parts at the CM for that. And then the bodies we're machining in-house, and literally tonight they're getting brought up for the manufacturing run. And so very exciting, and yeah, lots more fun on the way.
Very cool. And I was talking earlier about Primary Arms have sent me some new optics. I've got their 1-6 here with their ACSS 7.62 with 3.9 reticle.
Nice.
That I'm going to be trying out. I've actually got it mounted on my ODS
Yeah,
Sweet.
that thing is like lamb and tuna fish with the 1775. It's unreal good.
Yeah,
And
so
Nick needs to come out and ring steel at 500 yards with one of our guns sometime, over and over again. The satisfying thunk from 500 yards out that a big ass rock has when it's hitting a steel plate is really gratifying, and it'll make you feel like
it's called
something
an
approaching a
AR-10,
man.
isn't it, Nick. It's called an AR-10, isn't it?
Yeah,
Hear it when you feel at 500, Nick. You can actually hear it when it hits the steel.
So I've also got one of their 2X prisms that they sent me.
Ooh, nice.
Got the 2X prism. It also has the same reticle. It's calibered for the 7.62 but 3.9. So I'm going to be trying that. I know, Brian, I think you've already tried both these out, haven't you?
I've only tried the 1X. That 2X looks really interesting. I'm going to have to call up our homeboy Ken over there and see if I can get one out of him.
I
Yeah,
have the older version of that 2X, the 2.5, and that is one of my favorite optics.
nice.
I looked at that.
People occasionally bag on, like, I'll get nasty comments occasionally on Instagram, like, why are you putting a cheap optic on a $3,000 gun? And
It's not a cheap optic.
I know it's not a cheap optic, and I haven't broken one yet, and I run them 52 weeks a year in the rain, in the sun, in the snow, in the heat. Haven't broken one. Also, I'm not a rich man, and buying if you have iron, thou shalt have iron sights on your rifle. After that, buy what you can afford. And like, if it's $100 red dot, great. If it's a $10,000 piece of glass, great. I don't care. Just have irons on so that when they get fogged, which all optics can, you've got something.
Yeah. I really like those reticles too. I'm excited to try those out.
It's
They're
super interesting.
really good for old man eyes. I really like that chevron a lot.
You know, I looked at
Work
that
well
glass.
for you, Marty.
I looked at that glass at the NRA with Ken, and that stuff was as comparable as some really high-end glass. I was shocked. It was very, very clear glass.
I've taken it out in the backyard and I've done some, some scanning with it, but I haven't had a chance to take it out and shoot it yet. But maybe Andrew, we can get the Canic and we can go out and we can try all of them.
Yeah, man, I gotta do some practicing too. I got a class coming up, and I don't want to look like a fool. My reloads are getting sloppy. I haven't shot competition in a while.
Yeah, I hear that.
I'm fixing to go to. Well, we'll talk about that later.
I think you should go to Kalashtober. That would be a good place to
Come on up, everybody.
get your skills going there. Definitely.
Come on up.
But Leadheads, again, thanks for all the support, and we greatly appreciate it. And don't forget about the contest with Century Arms Talking Lead. We're giving away the Bft47. You've got until August. And if we still don't get enough participation, I'm trying to leave this just for our listeners, okay? But if we don't get enough, then I'm going to open it up to the whole world. We'll do like a Gleam or something like that, and we'll open it up to everybody. But I think by giving you guys this notice, letting you know what's going on, and the additional time, we're going to get more rolling in. So looking forward.
This ain't a waste of your time. That I get to see how many competitors we have in each contest, and it's always small, and the audience is huge. So this is, normally I don't apply for contests like this, but in this case, it's like your odds are phenomenal.
Yes.
So get after it.
I would definitely put in for it as someone who's won stuff before.
Well, you are eligible, so put in for it. Tell Garth to put in for it. Tell your listeners to put in for it. Ken, you're eligible. Brian, you're eligible. Do a post. Get Cody to do one.
I'll do a post, Marty, but I want somebody else to win it.
Like I said,
once you win it, you can give it to whoever you want.
Hey,
Exactly.
we got more fodder for Kalashtober giveaways. Is what
There
I'm
you go. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep, we'll do that.
There you
Somebody
go.
deserves it. Somebody else needs an AK. I've got a few that somebody needs an AK.
Well, that's generous of you.
Yes,
if
sir.
I could enter it and I want it, I would not. I would keep it. So I'm patient. So until then, Leadheads, I look forward to seeing your post. Look forward to hearing from you. TalkingLead@gmail.com. If you got suggestions for the show, comments, and then look for our posts so you can be eligible to win our giveaways that we have each and every episode of the Talking Lead AK Corner. And until then, Andrew, what's your word of advice to the Leadheads?
Buy more ammo.
That's a good way to end the show. Perfect.